right, then let's do it. Welcome everybody to the Great April Debate, another episode of the Group Up Podcast. I'm here with three awesome guests as always. Let me introduce them and let's discuss what has been going on. In the bottom right, a now fixture of the podcast, it is Samito. Samito, what's up?
What's going on, guys? I left Lijiang today. I finally left. It's been a couple years, but I'm gone.
You finally moved out of Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, I did.
The market economy getting too much for you?
Yeah, it's just too much over there, man. It's just too much. You got to spice it up, you know.
Too expensive.
Well, the time of day changed, you know. Samito can only exist at night, so he's got to go to a different map at night.
Yeah, that's.
I heard
luckily,
Hollywood's good this time of
yeah.
year.
Well, he's on the Hollywood green screen here, you know.
Yeah, yes.
That's true.
I'm actually in Hollywood. I'm in the room behind Hollywood where Tiny Overwatch used to be played, but rip Tiny Overwatch. Hashtag bring it back.
Yeah, actually, they don't see that anymore. I'm surprised they haven't recreated it. Anyways, in the bottom left is my man AVRL, whose birthday it is, chat. I mean, technically in his time zone, it's no longer his birthday, but for the rest of us, it is. So I hope you guys will be sending some birthday cheer and in the YouTube comments and stuff. What's up,
I turned 13, in case you're wondering. People like to ask how old you are. I'm like, yeah, I just turned 13 from 12, so I'm finally a teenager.
Impressive.
Can finally start thinking about, you know, doing adult things, picking out his own clothes.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, the body's getting bigger, things are changing. It's just like, man, like, life is getting, it's different out here. I'm starting high school soon. I can't remember what age people start high school anymore. I don't know.
Do we need a birds and the bees conversation?
Yeah, who wants to start that off? Who'd like to be the person who's unlucky enough?
Pass. In fact, actually, no. I think we're the perfect candidate here in the top left. It's my man Fitzyhere. Fitzy,
what's up?
You want to give the talk to AVRL?
You know, as someone who has recently turned 30, you know, definitely I'm capable of giving that talk for sure. You know, I think Mercy has a bee skin, and you know, Lifeweaver is like the flower. So you use the beam and you damage boost, and then sometimes a little healing, and that's how you win Overwatch.
I heard it was an Ana where you just go, you know, you're powered up, get in there, and then afterwards, you know, something comes out. So all right,
yeah, then you know, you're powered up for a good 6 seconds, and it's all over.
Exactly. You kind of, you know, you throw your juice out and then it's all done. Anyways, sus start to the podcast. Let's actually talk Overwatch. So we are in the depths of season 4. Lifeweaver, as already mentioned, is now available in comp, and two of my guests have been playing him quite a lot. Fitzy with a master to plat run, and then Samito rather doing the unranked to GM, which I know he has no. So neither of them have been having great experiences with Lifeweaver.
I'm almost to diamond.
Same.
I'm almost there.
I like it. Highest ranked Lifeweaver players in the world. I've had my own experience with Lifeweaver. I'm sure AVRL has as well. But let's start. Yeah, let's start with Fitzy. Fitzy, you're kind of haven't been on the podcast in a while. What have your
I haven't? What's up? Where have I been?
I know.
We've talked about hero bands. I got to talk about all these previous podcasts that I haven't been on because I got stuff to say.
Okay, yeah, throw it out.
But hero bands, you know, just real quick. Where are they at? Come on, get them in the game. We could have Kiriko not in like half of our games. We could have like Hanzo not on half our games. Listen, I'm always going to be hating on the Hanzo, all right?
I love that. I would ban Hanzo all day, every day.
Whatever. Listen, just imagine. And the best part about it, I can't remember everything you guys touched on, but the best part about it is that it works for every rank. Like, you know, in silver, you're like, God, Bastion, man. And then they're like, we don't care about Kiriko, whatever. And then top rank's like, man, Kiriko's every game. We got Widow coming out on half these Widow maps, whatever. Like, you know, it's not about 100% ban rate, just it's like some of the games, you know. Anyways, I digress. I think history repeats itself, and that it would be something healthy for the game in long run. Blah blah blah. We don't have to go into it though.
But then someone's gonna ban somebody's one trick, and they'll be upset.
Fuck them.
If that is what is holding back ranked, not having to play the exact same meta for like a month and a half, then I think that's where we can draw that line and be like, all right, If that is your only capability to play ranked, then go play quick play.
I don't know if that's Blizzard's actual defense, but I'll pretend it is. I'll pretend.
Yeah.
I mean, I
usually
know
people's
what the-
defense is there's not enough heroes. Listen, there's not. If you could remove 2 heroes from the game right now, nothing would break the game because neither team could play them. But
I actually know the Blizzard defense, but we will not digress there yet. We already had a whole podcast that we might have to keep revisiting this discussion because it's one that never
Oh,
dies.
Fitzy and I haven't been here, so we're all
true.
just soaking it in, you know.
This was a new tradition. Every time I bring on guests on a podcast, they will go over every topic that we've gone on since they were last on, just to give their thoughts on it. And if you guys haven't noticed, by the way, you might find something unsettling about AVRL's background, which is that he's actually in my room. Not really, but
Wait, I didn't notice.
Samito didn't even notice.
see, even Samito didn't clock on.
Damn, I even offered you the room and you just didn't even respond.
I was.
You're out of it. Yes, you were
When?
like, you put it with green screen. I'm like, do you want to be in SVB's room as well? And you just didn't say anything. I was like, okay.
I didn't even hear it.
So
Dude,
no.
I was. Wow, that tells you where my brain's at today.
It tells you
Holy.
it's because everyone's eyes are going straight on AVRL and his handsome face and his birthday boy charm, 13-year-old, swagger that he's got about him. But anyways, Fitzy, how have you found comp at the moment, or just Overwatch at the moment, and perhaps a word on Lifeweaver?
I'll be honest, the past week I haven't really played too much. So I didn't get to play much with Sombra while Lifeweaver's been in comp. But I've been playing Lifeweaver in comp. And yeah, he's interesting. I actually think he has a lot of potential at the higher ranks. I feel like he's kind of like the Sombra, and that like you can carry-ish in the lower ranks. And then there's a point where it's like you just die fast enough before you can do anything between like platinum to masters. And then like where you can't carry or whatever. And then like you get more value as you get higher. Anyways, I have not got to play him up there because I didn't really place in Overwatch 2 with support much. Like I played Kiriko season 1 a little bit. But then they've like, hey, there's decay. Now there's not. Now there's decay again. Okay, now there's not again. Hey, we've upgraded our matchmaking to where you're going to find your rank very quickly. So I go to play Lifeweaver, and in the first game was like really close. We had a disconnect, whatever. We were going to win. Second game, Sombra had EMP. She got disconnected. Like, what are you going to do? It's like, whatever. Second game, really close again. And then all of a sudden, the games got really weird, and I just lost every game for 15 games straight. Now, listen, you could play any hero. You could be doing AFK, doing nothing. Losing 15 in a row, that's just bad luck. Like, you could literally do nothing. I've played Mercy blind in one half of my games. It's just whatever. So, yeah, I got placed in plat, and it's legitimately where I'm at. So the matchmaker said, we don't know where he's supposed to be. He lost 15 in a row. Here you go. Because unfortunately, unlike Kiriko, you can't just like, oh, I just 2-tap someone. All right, I can carry. Like, Lifeweaver doesn't have that capability to secure a kill. You could survive as long as you want, but ultimately, at the end of the day, your team has to do the heavy lifting. And yeah, that's kind of where Lifeweaver's at. And I feel like the survivability, I'm not quite sure where he sits at. I don't know if it's because people don't understand the value you can create with him yet, based upon you could save 2 people from shatter and put them on a high ground, and there's like, oh well, I got pulled up here, but I'm just going to drop down there and just run in face first into the Reinhardt. And you're like, are they just disoriented because of the pool? Do they just like want to spite you and be like, no? I've had people that are like, I got pulled. Why'd you pull me? I was going to kill that guy. I had 200 HP. I go check the replay. He had like 50. And you're like, this guy just upset at me for the rest of the game for something that they didn't even realize was happening. Anyways, there's my spiel on that. I think Sombra is still about the same spot, but we're waiting on the rework. She's pretty good, but more value in a super coordinated environment. People still in ranked are like, I don't know. They don't feel like they still know really how to work with Sombra. I don't know.
Yeah.
I had someone ask me about
that's a
what
really
the
fun
tree
experience,
does.
is what you're saying.
Oh,
Really fun.
Plat. I had to like, okay, turn the brain.
Turn it down.
Believe
Flat
me,
yourself
the
down.
things I have seen. Oh my god, it's honestly been great though, because it's a great learning experience because I have not done a bronze GM since literally like 2017. And I planned to do one with the new Sombra rework, which we're waiting on. But this kind of was an unintentional, like, where at Platts, where it starts to kind of get a little difficult in a bronze to GM anyways. Maybe not so difficult, but like, the beginning part is just like, I'm noob stomping, whatever. And then you get to Plat and you're like, okay, now we got to really figure out. And what I've learned is people aren't in voice chat, but they are sometimes more willing than you'd like, than you think to join voice chat. Because I'm just like, hey, voice chat, you're just like a persistent, not like, get the hell in voice chat. You're just like, hey, you want to come to voice chat? You know what? And I will say, if there's 4 people in voice, I can coach them to a win. Like 90% of the time. I feel like every time there's 4 people or everybody's in voice chat, I'm like, boom, do this, do this, do this. And they're actually very receptible to like that coaching or whatever of like, this is how, because they don't have the game sense to know there's a Reaper right here by himself.
Yeah.
Nobody's looking at him. If we all turn and kill him, we win. And they just don't know. And but yeah, wait, hold on. I got my list of things here. Hold on, real quick. Things I've learned.
He did homework.
Things I've learned in Plat. Overusing ultimates. We all know that.
Oh, yeah.
Reaper's a menace. Lack of voice chat, but decent at following directions. 1 fight loss equals you have to swap something. Something's not working.
Yes, yeah. 100%.
1 kill does not mean that you just win. Like you don't have an advantage. 1 kill is like, no, you gotta chuck all the ults in there. And Rez has a 0% chance of being canceled. So that's what I've learned so far.
It's funny because this reminds me when you were coaching me, and when I was doing Sombra and I'm in Plat, and there was so many games where you'd be like, "No, SUB, okay, 4v5 now. You can rest easy. Go somewhere else and start looking for value." I translocate out. We'll lose the what? We're all dead. What? Everyone died. It was supposed to be an advantage to us. Nope, doesn't exist in Plat.
You haven't said my favorite one yet. No one resets. No one knows.
Oh yeah,
it's one big fight. Well, I pulled him out. I'm like, you need to reset, and they're like, okay. Yeah,
like people just keep feeding one by one in. I'm like, no one's resetting. I was just gonna fights going forever because everyone just keeps dying.
Yeah.
And someone who can have a little bit of insight, and that would be Samito. Samito, you've been doing your own journeys through Plat with Lifeweaver. Have you shared Fitzy's pain?
So I finally went on my big streak I was due for today. I won like 8 in a row. I'm almost to diamond. I will say, Weaver, what I've learned about Weaver in low ranks is I think Fitzy's completely right when he says like the higher the level of team play, the better this character is going to be, because I consider him a multiplier, right? In that he 0 times 1 or 1.5 is still 0, right? So when you have a tank that's just going down mid, or DPS who are just losing every duel in abysmal spots in the setups, you're just going to lose that game with Weaver. And like with other supports like Zenyatta or Ana or Kiriko, or even Moira in their backline, like you would be able to secure kills. His damage is like non-existent. It's miserable. It's like I barely even look for it at all, because you can't there's a clip of me like trying to one clip a Mercy right in front of me, and like I'm right next to her, and like I'm headshotting her for like literally probably about 1.5 seconds straight, and she still survives. And it's like I missed 1 or 2 pellets. This is with the buff. This is with the buff today. I heard Kiri might have healed her a little bit.
The tight, what is it? The spread buff.
It's still bad. I still think.
See, I'm used to the Sombra damage, so like I just know. I know.
Yeah.
Like none of this is worth it. You might as well just be healing someone.
Yeah, and the problem is the animation time delay, the swap between heals and damage. Like there's a amount of times where I'm trying to shoot a 1 HP target, but it takes me literally 1.5 seconds to then get like only 65 healing off. So like it's not worth swapping, which is why I heal bot a ton on the character. I think
that's the way you're supposed to play as well.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah, and it's. There have been times where I get enormous denial value, but until your team makes a correct offensive play, it's very hard to get value on the character. The most value that I've had has been literally putting my DPS players on the leash and like jumping into their backline high ground and pulling them to me and saying, "You are shooting from this angle, do not leave." And they sit there, half of them jump straight back down 1 second later, and I'm just like, oh. And then half of them sit there and shoot. And then my favorite thing that happened was like, my guy was like, "Oh my God, this new hero's kind of good. This high ground spot's great." I'm like, Yeah, taking high ground is actually the easiest way to get out of gold/plat.
My
Literally,
God.
take high ground every fight and shoot in an off angle, and that's the freest plat 1 diamond you've ever had in your life. No one does it. But what I found is that the amount of brain power you need to have this character work is insane. Like you have to have perfect timing, perfect positioning, like really good awareness. Like there was like I've denied 3 ults in one fight from treeing properly and pedaling my team. And that's been good. Like you have to wait for, like there was one fight where I on Blizzard World first attack, and I'll show you the clip on Twitter later. We were playing Mercy Weaver Rhine, and my Rhine was getting blown up. So he hugged the corner. I said, Rhine, I'm going to pedal you. You're going to go over the top. And John Cena shatter. Shatters 3. We only kill 1. The Mercy Valks. We get EMP fluxed. Right when my Rhine's about to die, I drop a tree. He survives at 1 HP and then a pedal, and then he goes back up. So he goes down, heal up, right? And just like survives and eludes the damage long enough to get healed. So stuff like that's really nice. There's a big problem with other teammates stepping on your pedal setups, which are just essential for you to survive all the time, actually, especially in lower ranks, where they're just like, oh, shiny, let me step on this. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm dead to their Genji now because I can't double pedal, right? So when like you're actually able to use your abilities effectively, it's good. And the life pool can be good. But the amount of times I pull my tank out and then they just get literally like fly straight back in anti-dead. And I'm like, dude, what's going on up here? And then they flame me, and they make the mistake of flaming me, and then I sit down and explain to them why they're completely wrong, and then they get tilted, and then my DPS start flaming them because they know that I'm right, and then the tank gets mad and says GG bad team and starts picking hog and running down mid.
That's interesting. I have not had anybody flame me. There's been like
Really? No
one
one?
person, one Reinhardt that's like, why'd you pull me? And like he was just terrible. And
yeah.
like one other person, I don't know if it's because I literally I'm like voice chat. I'm open comms the entire time, and like, listen, if you're gonna come shit talk me, you're not saying shit this entire game. You have no right. And then like if they're text chat, I'm like, well, they're in text chat. Like they don't have
text
any
shatters mostly. It's mostly
yeah. Maybe it's because I'm just like get in voice chat, and if they hear me talking, because there was like a May that like I pulled him like, hey. And like immediately when I pulled, I was like, sorry, that pull wasn't for you. That was for so and so. But in text chat, they didn't hear it. And so then they're like, what are you doing? Why are you pulling me? I was like, well, if they were in voice chat, they would have known, you're not gonna be perfect, but
I've been pulling a lot of high noons, right? I've pulled a lot of high noons into crazy angles. So like what I'll do is it's because the reality is the best way to climb on support is to make aggressive plays, right? That's what you have to do. Like you have to make aggressive plays, especially in Overwatch 2 compared to Overwatch 1, where like making that aggressive play is what wins you games. So I'm hard anchoring on Weaver in these crazy anchor spots, right? Which I think he competes for the same role as Brig, but Brig just does it better right now. He's an anchor support, right? So whenever I get my Cass, like he'll be high nooning on one side of the map, and I pulled him all the way across point on Blizzard World into 3 people, and he got a triple high noon kill. And they just don't expect stuff like that. So again, it's a multiplier. Whenever you have a teammate who can use an ult in the right spot, like I would pull my soldier high ground for Visor. I'd be like, hey, you're taking a pedal up top, like on Gibraltar on these points, and that's when I started getting a lot of value. When I actually had like appropriate, like decent response from my team, and not just them running it down. But whenever they're just like running it down and not willing to work around the Reaver, it's really bad. But like if you actually use it to utilize high grounds, utilize positional advantage, it's great. You just don't ever, not only do you rarely get that in ranked, but especially in anything under diamond, like I feel terrible for anybody trying to play this character in gold and under. There's just no way. It's literally, I say this, like it would be easier to win on Mercy, because at least on Mercy you could build, if you're smart, you can build your Valk and get your damage boost. Its res is so much more forgiving than Life Grip, because you use it about the same amount of times during a fight. And generally speaking, like it's easier, like the time frame to get a res off is their entire respawn time, and you won't have to react to their mistake. On Weaver, you have to be ready to react to their mistake. Like I think that Weaver, because of the lack of his power in his kit, might be the highest game sense requirement to get value of any support right now. Because Ana, like maybe I'd say Ana because positioning and stuff, but like the bad Weavers are just probably the worst thing that you can get, because you have to have an incredibly high level of reactionary timing and understanding of everything that's going on around you to know where to set up and get value on the character. I think he should get buffed again, honestly. I do. I was completely wrong. Well, okay. I think his abilities are fun and creative, and they have really, really high potential when played properly in the right setting. But just generally right now, like his stats and his fluidity are just not good enough for him to even touch how good Brigida is. So I don't think he just can't compete. So I was wrong on that one for sure.
Interesting. I mean, I'm curious about AVRL's thoughts because I have two different sets of experiences of Lifeweaver adventures, but I'm curious if you've kind of seen or have you played any Lifeweaver or seen any things about Lifeweaver, AVRL?
I mean, my personal playing experience is like, I'm gonna say myself probably a little irrelevant. I mean, I know you'd say like at the high level he should be pretty good, but no pros are willing to really put her into any metas at the moment. Like you're not going to see her been playing any team comps. She must have been scrimmed at some stage, but I don't think she offers enough value to the team. Like I theorize that maybe Lifeweaver could have been really good in like a dive as a dive support, just because of long range healing. You think about classic dive supports. You think about like anything that supports a Tracer or Genji that helps them get their job done from range, allows them to win their 1v1s, their duels. Yeah, I think the numbers is one of the criticisms. Like the healing is too slow; it's not enough. Damage, you guys already mentioned, is not nearly enough. Even just small quality of life stuff like the delay between swapping between the damage and the heals, like that should be as close to instant as possible. That just makes it Lifeweaver feel slightly clunky. I mean, there's potential for like some strategic stuff with the pedal platforms and all that kind of stuff, but as far as I'm aware, just he does not bring enough to the table to unseat heroes like Kiriko. Despite all the nerfs to Kiriko, she's still being played quite regularly. Even Brig gets played, even though like most pros thought Brig was nerfed. To be honest, I don't know if that's counter to how you guys feel about Brig, because I know a lot of you guys were saying that Brig was maybe looking on paper going to be a buff, but most pros think she got nerfed. Anna's still really strong, so you got a lot of supports that are doing a lot, and Lifeweaver's not doing nearly as much.
Is her armor still bugged? Because there was a bug where
It is, yeah.
They fixed it on OPR. I thought that's what I heard. I'm not sure. If
No, I think the armor is still bugged. Yeah.
So for those who aren't
Pretty
familiar,
sure.
like basically the armor does not give the armor it actually should. Like it should give her more HP than it does, essentially, which it part
it's
of the
not
equation.
Damage
of it.
properly.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, anything else you want to add before I kind of give my thoughts, AVRL?
No, I just think the hero needs probably some stat boosts. Maybe like people talked about the hitbox a lot as well. I don't know if you guys have felt that to be
Yeah, it's too
Oh,
big.
a major
Way
for
too big.
support. Why are the pedals on the back part of the hitbox? That part I don't get.
it's
Yeah.
crazy to me that they would design Kiriko and then just go completely the other way.
Yeah.
Because you're like, no way she should have utility, survivability, damage, healing, crazy ult, blah blah blah, skinny hitbox, and then they're just like,
ironically,
you know
the
what?
Slender's hitbox with something that with their hands that constantly block headshots
Yeah.
with their default stance.
And then they're like, yeah, we messed up. Let's just give all of those to Lifeweaver. Let's just
Yeah.
big hitbox, low damage, no survivability, no healing. Just it's crazy. You could switch the hitboxes and they would feel so much better.
I also think, like, in terms of design, you guys mentioned Lifeweaver feels a little bit like a multiplier, right? Is what you said, Sam. And in a way, it's kind of like Mercy, but less value, because things like Res just way more clear value, way easier to pull off. You don't have to play around your teammates' mistakes, right? Like you mentioned. And that just makes Lifeweaver more difficult, less impactful. They said that they wanted to make
so fun when you pull it off.
I'm sure. What, like a good life rip?
Anything,
just
anything. With
anything.
Lifeweaver,
Like you get a res, you're like, wow, okay, I
platform.
saved them. But when you're like, boom, they got shattered. I
just
grabbed
think
that person, I pedaled that person.
Yeah.
Now I put a tree and blocked that, and then
It's like I'm a puppet master, right?
Exactly.
I have so many clips.
Exactly.
Which fits perfect. Which fits perfectly for Fitzy.
Yeah.
Fitzy's
It's one of those heroes
archetypal
where like I think you are gonna suffer, especially because you guys mentioned probably not very good at low ranks. It's just you suffer from not bringing enough value to the table because you have all this utility, but it's all this kind of like team help utility that doesn't make you better, doesn't make you stronger, doesn't allow you to frag or do any of that kind of stuff. Doesn't really make you heal better. It's just probably like a really weak hero for most of the player base.
Yeah,
I think some of it still is. Sorry to cut you off, Ezra.
No, go ahead. You go.
I think some of it still is the people don't understand what's happening. Like I put a tree and they're like, what does the tree do? And you're like, all right, it's been 2 weeks. Come on. You don't,
They
how do
just
you not want to
constantly run
learn that?
away. They
And
just
I'm
run
just like,
away from
get in the
every
tree, get in
fight.
the tree, get in the tree.
Oh.
And you're just like, come back to the tree. I can't keep you up. And then,
No.
and
You got
the high ground, like it is very disorienting when you get pulled. And so you're like, no, I'm running. And you're just like, you pull him and you're like, don't move. Like I had an Anna. There was what was it? Blade happened. I pulled her. I put the pedal platform down. We're like up, and it's like, Genji can't touch us. I'm gonna just drop to the low ground. Like, come on, there's a blade going on. Why are you not like, okay? Because they just don't understand what's happening. They don't understand that, like, if you get pulled and there's a plat and you just don't move, because it is very disorienting.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Do you think
for
that-
guys. Go ahead, everybody.
I was gonna say, do you think the ult is good enough? I mean, maybe it's different at plat because people don't damage you enough, and obviously the tree can just out heal anything at that level. But I mean, it feels like the tree is probably still not that good. I mean, the feedback that I've heard is the tree healing is still pretty abysmal.
It's okay. It's got situations where it's good, but it's hard to compare the tree to the other support ults, which are consistently just nuts. Like Kitsune is almost always value. Beat is almost always value. Like Trank is almost always value. Nano is almost always, like, the list goes on, right? Like Tree, it's like I've had situations where it's been crazy anchoring a corner, but it's only when their team is actually aggressing. So like best case scenario, it's situational, but it's certainly not outclassing any of the other support ults. Not even close.
Yeah, I think
It's really
that's
easy
a very
to break still.
That's a very good point that you bring, which I think a lot of people have made this point. I think I saw Shore4 tweeting something about this, which is that his POV was like, well, people are complaining about Lifeweaver being underpowered when he's actually maybe the first balanced support, and it's the other supports
That's
that are
true,
kind of
actually.
like,
That's a good point.
kind of like
I
throwing.
wasn't gonna say it.
They're kind of throwing the metric off, and I do think there's a couple points I want to make as I give my POV on Lifeweaver. I think that's one of them, which is that the problem we have is that in Overwatch, anytime a new hero drops, and I actually, so funnily enough, I was actually recording a call with Frito about Lifeweaver like a week ago or something, and we talked for like 2 hours about Lifeweaver, and then we spiraled on to like the format of Overwatch. Sadly, Frito forgot to hit the record button, so that's lost in the ether.
He pulled a J3.
He pulled the J3. The recording didn't go through, so we had like a lengthy discussion on Lifeweaver and everything. But one of the problems that we kind of talked about is that the problem with any time a hero drops in Overwatch, and I think there's another argument for the hero bans, is that there has to be two things. Well, there's one of three options. Option A, the hero is so good that they replace another hero in an existing archetype, right? So the hero arrives and they're a better Brig in protecting their other support. They're a better offensive support and they replace, the Zenyatta or the Ana or something. Or they're like a better enabler and they replace, let's say, the Lucio or the Mercy or something, right? Option two, they suck and therefore they don't replace the existing support and therefore no one has any incentive to pick them because it's very much like, well, we might have a Lifeweaver and he's doing okay, but they have a Kiriko and she's doing more because her character does more. Therefore, we're automatically losing. That's option B. And then option C, which is what people have been hoping for, is the hero creates a new meta, a new archetype way of playing. That's unrealistic. Like, that's only going to happen once in every, like, so many heroes. Like, one in maybe 5 heroes will make a new meta. So we have this problem where we're really struggle to judge the real strength and value of a hero because we're constantly comparing them to like the hero in that slot, not necessarily what the hero does themselves. Where I think Lifeweaver was really, really cool. I had a blast playing him, so I one-tricked him for like a week when he dropped. I had a blast. I'm playing quick play. I played in an alt, and even in plat and stuff, I did have fun just putting. I did my most to manipulate my tank. Basically, I would just always manipulate them into like, okay, go high ground, go fight this guy. Like I was just like guiding them like a dog on a leash. Like come here, go fight this guy. Yeah, pull around. Like especially because in like the plat kind of elo, people love running like low groundy tanks. So like Ramatra, Reinhardt, Roadhog. People love running the tanks that don't have mobility anyways. So you just like go up to the high ground, yoink them up, and you're like, you fight this guy right here, fight this guy. And they're usually like, see thing, fight thing. So like, oh, okay, this guy, yeah, I'll work on this guy.
Yeah.
So they go fight that guy. So I think he's really fun. I think obviously one of the problems we're having is comparing him to other heroes that are doing a better job in comps we know much better how to play. I would argue that he's being received now how Mercy would have been received had she dropped today. Like, I think if we dropped Mercy today, people would have probably been like, why would I pick this lame hero who I can never carry with? All my unranked GMs go terribly because I can't win. Like, you know, my win rate is barely above 50%. The carry potential is so low, and I gotta enable these Garbo DPS when I could just pick Ana or Zen or Bap and just frag my way out, right? So like that's the problem. I did have an interesting other experience to add though, which is that yesterday I queue up rank and I get this, and as soon as I log on to Overwatch, I get a DM. Not healer, aka ML7. Hey, you want a duo? And I'm like, all right, let's do it. We lock rank. Both accounts are GM1, and he's locking Lifeweaver, and I'm locking every other support just to kind of figure out what's gonna happen. And we actually did pretty well. Like we had like a 60% win rate, and again in GM1, so it wasn't like we were like smurfing or anything. The way I found basically, I think this is the thing about like learning how to play with and around a Lifeweaver. I really think the community has to learn this, but then it's unlikely to happen as well at the same time, because I've been around long enough to know the community very rarely adapts to things. Essentially, you have to giga aggro, right? Especially if you're the person who understands that there's a Lifeweaver in your team and you have any vague amount of trust in them, you got to giga aggro. So me, I'm just like taking the craziest off angles I can find, like, you know, risking it on Ana. I'm like, I'm sitting here, I know if they dive me, I'm dead. But like, you know, ML and I are kind of on the same page where I'm like, the dive comes in, I'm almost like baiting them into like, hit me with another 2 cooldowns, and then I jump off, and I'm like, ML, and he's already like in the process of yoinking me, right? He's like, all right, come over here. Now I've baited the dive, cooldowns are gone, I got a good value from that spot, and now we win that way. So like if you understand, okay, I've got a Lifeweaver in my team, therefore my normal cycle of play can be extended. You know, let's say I'm like a hero that's based around cooldowns, and normally on my last cooldown, I'm out. Like, that's it. Like, the last thing, and I use that to escape. You don't have to. Now, when there's a Lifeweaver, you use that last cooldown for one more play, and then the Lifeweaver pulls you out with his cooldown, and you've kind of gotten value your way. So, like, I do think, like, especially I think as a duo, he's a great hero to have as a duo. Like, almost even better than Mercy. Because, like, okay, Mercy's great if you're hit scanning, you're going to farm. But like the scope of what you can do with Lifeweaver when you have like a Lifeweaver duoing with you is so much higher, where you can like you can go on high grounds you never could. You can go for, like, again, as Samito said, like these John Cena shatters or something. And you have this like better than Suzu get out of jail free card if you're playing aggro, because your position is reset. It's not just that you're invulnerable and you're saved. Okay, I inted, I'm back, I'm safe. We start the fight again, right? You almost reset the fight completely. So I think the community does need to make that adaptation. I know people will say, oh, well, not everyone is ML7. No, but that's how every hero starts, right? Like, every hero starts with one guy is like, this is how you play the hero, and then everyone quite quickly copies on and is like, oh, okay, I'll just do that then. So like, we just need to set that precedent of like, okay, you got a Lifeweaver in your team, communicate with him, go aggro, and then like the plays you can make are so much higher. But like, I do agree, from probably the perspective of the Lifeweaver yourself, you're kind of reliant on your team doing that before you can really maximize your value.
But if you do that, it's really, really good. So what I do want to stand by my original take is that this hero has a ton of potential, right? I think if they figure out like the damage to healing stats a little bit, he'll be in a much better spot. But you're completely right. Like, that's when I found like a ton of value. And we've kind of cooked up a couple comps just in scrims of like, we like places we can play Weaver, and I really want to try him. So we tried it, and it actually worked a little bit. And there's I wish I could talk about everything I know. Unfortunately, I cannot. But just people are cooking. That's all I'll say. Let people cook. They're cooking, and I think give it time, people are going to get better at Weaver, and they're going to realize where he's good. Because I think he is situationally good, and in the right situation, when played properly with the right comp, he can get a ton of value. But it's not great it's one of those things in ranked where it's like, good luck. You got to have people willing to work around it. So it's good. But to add on to Weaver's discussion, something Fitzy mentioned earlier, and a question for you guys. So what I've noticed is that it's very easy for people to accidentally like walk off the pedal. What if when pedal was on the ground, it had a slightly smaller hitbox so that people don't like accidentally step on it? But when they do, it expands a little bit bigger than it is right now, and then goes up. Or while it's up, it's a little bit bigger, so it's easier to not like accidentally go off it, or something like that. What do you guys think?
Put breakable railings on the top so they can't jump off.
Railings, not the breakable railings. Oh God, not more of those. But just,
like once the ride starts, the railings just come up. Like, okay,
something
yourselves.
About
please fasten your seatbelts.
Potentially having the pedals give a very minor amount of healing if you're on it, or something like that. I wasn't sure what to think about that though, because I didn't really put it in the like. It'd have to be very minor if it was there. But do you think that would make the character better? Do you think that'd be a good change or a bad change?
It
So-
might be
I mean,
so
nice.
you're saying
100% it's going to make the character better, right? I mean, it's
Make it
a
make the
Well,
hitbox
better
smaller
for
to
the
stand
game.
on.
okay.
So like,
Is that
so
what you
when
said?
it's on the ground and it hasn't deployed yet, maybe it's a
Yeah.
bit smaller so people don't accidentally step on it. But when somebody does, it slightly expands
What if,
and then goes up.
Not to make the game more complicated, but what if it was an interact key? Like you'd have to actually interact with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Or just to let the Weaver control
make it
it,
go
right?
up?
Like let the Weaver push the button to let it go up. Because I
Yeah.
think like he's the one in control of it, right? So you could just have it like rather than people. Because I do find that one of the hard things to coordinate is like even when you have 3 people,
Jump
who are,
on
okay, guys,
at the same
we're
time.
gonna jump. Yeah, it's like jumping at that same moment is like near impossible sometimes. Because one guy jumps the gun, the rest of you just stood there like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. Like
That's
you're
nice.
watching balloons.
Actually, I like
I
that.
do-
I think if the
to
Weaver
your-
controlled it, that'd be the best.
To your other point, Sam, I do like the idea of it giving some healing just because I think it then incentivizes people to look and use the platform, right? Because right now, people
Oh,
don't.
God.
They don't at all. Like they get out there and like wow, their instincts are being fought against or beyond. But if there's healing, then maybe it's like that's not enough of an incentive for them to be like, oh yeah, the platform heals me, right? I'll sit on it for a little bit of time. Oh, look at all the shots I can get from up here. Oh, this is nice.
Yeah, because here's the thing too. It's not like the pedal, like the heroes that you'd play into a Weaver, like Sombra just rolls that character. It's crazy. Sombra just like hacks
I
the pedal.
haven't,
Oh,
I haven't
zoom.
had the chance to play yet, but yeah.
Dude, Fitzy, there's gonna be somebody
I
on a
knew,
platform.
no, I
You're
knew.
gonna
I was like-
stealth. I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna stealth, and you're gonna just wait for somebody to take the pedal, and then the second it goes up.
No, I'm gonna step on the pedal platform.
No, I thought you're gonna wait for them to.
Yeah,
take
he can
it,
just step
take
on
them
it
to take
invis and
and
just
then
sends
hack
them
it,
up.
And then
it just
kill
goes right back down.
Lifeweaver.
Yeah, you can. Oh, that is true, but you'll be detected. What I would like to do. To
No,
people
you
is
don't
I'd
get
like to-
detected. You're invisible. You just stand on it. It
But
goes
no-
up, and then what are they gonna do? Put another one down?
Well, no, but it's almost like a bait. It's almost like camping a translocator because if they take it and you're waiting and you instantly hack it, it goes up and then it immediately goes straight back down.
Right.
So they just go whoop whoop and they're just on the ground again and they think they're gonna be safe, but then you guys just dive them, they die. That's what I want to do to people. I
I
think.
mean,
it'd
also
just be so troll.
EMP also just deletes the tree, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
it's-
EMP deleting tree
crazy.
is something I'm a little bit.
Crazy
on.
Listen,
Listen,
direction.
Roadhog can kill it. Bastion can kill it.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
okay
but they
with
don't
doing the
delete
EMP.
it. But they don't delete it. They have to actually
like-
shoot it.
They
Yeah.
delete it pretty quickly.
It's fast, but like I think EMP.
Come on, by the
should
time you
just-
finish the cast animation,
Well, I mean, it
Bastion's
can-
already killed it.
EMP should do the damage to it. I just don't think it should instantly remove it completely.
What about Symmetra Wall?
Simwall? I mean, I don't know. It's Simwall. Yeah, they can get taken down. Oh well, actually, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That is a good point. I
What
don't
about
know.
They
There's-
have- they
Kiriko
have-
canceling
they
any
have
ult
been-
every 13 seconds?
Yeah, I mean, listen. Don't get me started on Suzu. This podcast will go 6 hours, all right?
I mean,
But
obviously,
I don't
I'm
know.
a simple.
Sorry, of course I have to be the Sombra defender, right? You
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
I have to. I
But
have
you're right
to.
from a consistency standpoint. You're right. You're right.
They have been buffing Sombra's. I'm curious to your thoughts on this because they have been buffing her ability to cancel ults more, right? Like they made Blizzard cancelable. They made
Because
Orisa's
Blizzard needed another counter.
the Amore is now hackable as well. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like, personally, it's a little bit too free in my opinion, even as a newly found Sombra sympathizer.
I understood why they did not have a. I thought like, oh, Orissa's untouchable during her fortify, but then you can like hack her during fortify, so it's like okay, but then nothing else can cancel it. But then now you got Lifeweaver, they just like pedal platform. I think
That's
there was
been
like,
fun.
yeah,
That's been
yeah,
fun.
because you're just like, oh, I'm just waiting, I'm just gonna boop, cinematic. That's what happened. But anyways, clearly they're going to keep hack for the rework, otherwise they wouldn't be wasting their time testing all of these and whatever. So clearly there's something internal they're testing with how they're reworking her that they like want her to get more value from hack or EMP. I don't know, you know, where it's like, I'm not sure. What other ultimate are they going to make cancelable though? Like, is Kitsune going to be cancelable? Because right now Kitsune really doesn't have a counter, and not that Sombra has to be that counter for everything. Because you'd be like, oh, she counters walls,
Yeah,
she counters trees,
I don't
she
think
counters...
EMP should just delete everything. I think it's gotta be
Exactly,
something else,
exactly.
man.
I
think
agree.
It should do damage and then maybe just do the disable time or something. The problem is like Simwall though, like you said, it's like okay, well, what about Simwall? Right.
And it's like, I mean, Nano Bash can kill it pretty quick,
Yeah.
you know. So again, you know, Roadhog, Nano Bastion, like they kill it relatively quickly. and still have some value afterwards. Whole hog glass for like 8 seconds or whatever it is. Bastion can kill it, and then like it's really just nano that helps you kill. I mean, High Noon can cancel it, kind of. Does a lot of damage.
The
wall.
The wall. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Barrage. I have a habit of damage barrage.
Really? Barraging the wall. I haven't known.
Oh well, yeah, they're just out of position. So I mean, they're gonna walk forward the wall, and I barrage the wall with damage boost. It's gonna break real fast, and then I'm ready because the Sim's gonna hold me hostage with her wall and make me do self damage, and I'll just die when I barrage on my own. So I'm just gonna wait for him to wall.
Oh, you used it to force the wall. Is that what you're saying?
No,
he's breaking it.
But it depends on the situation. Like if they're like wrapping on a choke on the right map, like I'll just go for barrage. But if like
Gotcha,
we're on, like,
I gotcha.
or something, and she's walling her team to aggress, I'll just go to a safe spot way up in the map, tell my Mercy to damage boost me, and barrage the wall, and then their team's just in nowhere, like the middle of the open.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
all right,
yeah,
I'll put you on a
gotcha.
rotate because I just play the rotates. It's fine.
I mean,
I think
go
really
ahead, Avro. Go ahead.
real quick. I think the part of the other reason why no one at the very high level in pro play is willing to put Lifeweaver in any comps is because of how good Sombra is in the meta right now. There's a lot of Sombra play at the pro
Sombra's
level.
so good. She just ruins Weaver.
So you're not going to bother playing Weaver when Sombra is this prevalent in the meta. So I mean, Sombra is actually at the pro level. Sombra is in a good place at the moment. I don't. Maybe she's even overtuned. I don't know, but she's like really picked a lot. So
yeah, and that's that highly coordinated. Like you can ping your 3, 2, 1. We've got 1.5 seconds to go on somebody. So.
Also, the important thing is that she's the only character that can enable a dive on a Kiriko. So when these Kiri Ana comps play out, like a lot of teams are just hacking the Kiri and just like making it explode with the dive.
Yep.
And that's all it is.
You can kill Brig with that too.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Brig's shield is bugged every time. If she's not looking at you, you start to hack her, and she puts up her shield, it blocks your hack.
From what direction? What
she doesn't have to look at you. You could literally be any. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not 100% of the time, but like, I've got clips. Whatever you go. It's because her shield, when it like deploys, she's like got it on her side, and it just like, I don't know if it's just
like
enormous. At the second, it's like
it's like
bam, and it's just like a Winston bubble around her.
Yeah, that's
but it's stupid because you're just like, what blocked it? Because you literally, if you start a hack, the only thing that can block it is if they protect their entire hitbox. Because like to start a hack, you have to hit the center of the hitbox, but for it to cancel, they have to like completely LOS you or completely get behind your shield or whatever. That's why people are like, I'm behind the wall. It's like, well, the tendrils are latching onto your center hitbox, but like, it's like when you get slept and like, that's Anna sleep me, she slept my foot. Like you're hacking their foot, whatever. But yeah, Brig, she like it happened. It used to happen with Reinhardt as well. And they actually fixed this bug in Overwatch 1, but something they did with their shield in Overwatch 2, they're like, yeah, Giga Briga. I guess they're gonna just maybe that like widescreen shield is like what deploys initially, and it I don't know, some weird coding. But anyways,
yeah, I mean,
I digress.
No, I mean it's a relevant point, and what I was gonna say is that while we're on the topic, it might be worth discussing like the impending. We've talked about the Brig rework coming, but the impending Sombra rework as well. Since you're here on the podcast, Fitzy, and I don't want to be in a position where we invite you afterwards and you're like, I didn't get to talk about it last time. So I got to recap my feelings on it. I will say, like, having seen the Brig quote unquote rework, I'm now wondering how much of a rework the new Sombra will really be when it's just like. We said Rally was being reworked, but like honestly, just the visual looks different, but like functionally, there's not like these ideas have already been in Brig, the stun and like so like I don't know how far out from the Sombra existing character they're gonna go, but I'm curious. Let's actually hear Sam and AVRL first, and I'll let Fitzy go fully on like his feelings on the Sombra rework. Guys, any thoughts?
So I don't step in.
Okay.
You want to go first, AVRL? Birthday boy.
I didn't even know how you'd start reworking Sombra, and I got no leaks. I got nothing. I got no info. I'm trying to imagine like how they would even attempt to rework Sombra. Because
are we talking Sombra first or Brig first?
Yeah, which
you can do Sombra first. We'll do Sombra first,
okay,
and then we can talk Brig.
So, yeah, I don't know. Like at the moment, she seems okay. I don't know. She seems like a hero that still needs an identity between like is she gearing more towards an Overwatch 1 style where kind of the hacking with the utility on the hack, or is she more like an assassin, a hit scan assassin? Like what is she kind of trying to do at the moment? But I guess she's leaning more heavy towards the latter in terms of being actual damage dealer. EMP actually feels like a reasonably strong ultimate now. I remember like Overwatch 2 alpha, beta, Sombra EMP felt ridiculously weak. I'm at a weird place. I think I would even be okay with just leaving Sombra alone, but I know they're working on it. I know they're doing something. I just can't imagine what the actual rework is going to entail. I'm actually a little scared that they'll make Sombra worse. Like Sombra will be less fun than she currently is for everybody involved.
It'll be hilarious if they do a similar to Brig and they're just like, our rework is that the invis has a timer on it now. It's like
that's what I was gonna get to that actually.
Yeah,
Just go back to Overwatch
Samito.
1.
Yeah, just go back to the
My
original
question-
release. And and the health packs, now when you hack them and someone takes
They
them,
give
they
ult
give you ult charge. Like
Thank God. We're gonna get back in the thing where people just like spam the ult
Farm the
pack,
ult, yeah.
the health packs. Yeah. Oh,
New
my
game
God.
mode, 2 CP.
you know, she's really good at this Temple of Anubis map now. Anyways, carry on, Sam.
So question for you guys too, if we get some context here. Have they stated what their reasoning / goals are for a Sombra rework? Like, why are they? Because my answer depends on what their objective is, right? Like, why do they want to rework her?
Fitzy, do you have any info
What
on
are
this?
the complaints and like what
Is it my
do they
turn?
want to do? Yeah, you can go ahead and do it. Yeah, you can go ahead
Annoying. Woo!
and-
That's their like. We don't like that she's annoying, and it's like,
Okay.
have you seen Carrie go? Like, you go to do
Yeah,
anything,
yeah.
and she's there with a Suzu. Yeah, that's of what I've heard has been like, yeah, Sombra's just annoying, and it's like, okay, they didn't say she was overpowered or weak. They just said annoying. Like, it wasn't like, she's pretty weak, but she's annoying too. So we're gonna try to, it wasn't like she's strong and she's annoying. So yeah, I don't know how they're gonna tone down the annoyingness. I thought the whole thing with annoying was like, oh, I'm hacked for 10 seconds with EMP and then hack. So I was like, okay, they got rid of that. Now she does more damage. And then they're like, well, she's kind of annoying because, like, she just shows up and it's like, well, what does Tracer do? I mean, she just shows up with dive and kills you too. Like, yeah, oh, I got hacked. I couldn't use my ability. But like, well, you could just be dead and you couldn't use your ability. So, yeah, in terms of the not being able understanding of what they're gonna do with the rework, I too am a little bit scared. I was like, oh, it's fine, but then once it wasn't out for this season, I'm like, why has it been delayed? What are they cooking over there? Because maybe they've like I think and I don't know, maybe I gave enough pushback where I was like, if you get rid of Invis, Translocator is just terrible. If you get rid of Translocator, Invis with EMP is just terrible. Like, there's these, like, she needs to do enough. If she doesn't have Translocator, she needs to do enough damage to actually get kills consistently. So now she's like popping out of Invis and killing you. Like, what ability are they going to replace Translocator with? Like, if they make it another movement ability, it's just going to be inherently worse. Like, imagine you pop out of Invis and you shoot someone, and then you're like, oh, let me escape, let me dash or whatever. Like, you're just gonna die. And not that, but anyways, if they're like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna give her like a 50 damage bonus burst, whatever, like, that's gonna be annoying. She's just gonna pop out of Invis and kill you, and you have no say. So yeah, I don't know if I think they've kind of run into the like, what do we do? Because the other thing is, like, if you don't have Translocator, how are you gonna get hacks where, like, okay, their tank is just shooting you, and then you get punished for getting shot to get this ability off so you can do enough damage? And I don't know. It's this her whole kit is very tough.
Hello guys, SCB here. Just want to quickly interrupt this episode of the Group Up Podcast to say that if you've been enjoying this content, then please do consider supporting me directly via Patreon. It really does help, since Patreon only takes about 10% of your money, where YouTube and Twitch take 40 and 50% respectively. So it supports me and allows me to keep making videos no matter how many views they do or don't get. Also, if you are really enjoying this discussion, then why not consider watching some of my other content? First and foremost, my Twitch stream where this podcast is hosted live, and I stream 5 days a week doing a bunch of other things as well. If you're not much of a Twitch viewer, then you can check out the SVB side channel, where all the best bits from the stream go straight to YouTube in highlight format, including VOD reviews, gameplay, and streamer formats such as the Fantasy Overwatch or Rank Gauntlet that you may have seen other streamers participate in. And finally, if you're sick of Overwatch, then you could check out my other channel, The Soak, which is where I do movie and TV breakdowns. And I've done videos on things like Avatar The Last Airbender, Pixar's Up, and anime like Haikyuu. So if any of that sounds up your street, then all the links are in the description. But now, back to the discussion. I feel like this is another case of the delayed balancing they're almost on, where like we're always addressing problems that would then like get addressed later, but then we're still addressing them. So to sort of give my point, it's like at first, it's early Overwatch 2 Sombra was hella annoying, right? Because she had like that extra, I think it was the damage was higher, right? And it's like I remember vividly being Zenyatta, and it's just like there was like literally nothing you could do, because like at least with the Tracer, I guess the counterpoint, and I will try and be fair in this one because I'm a newfound Sombra sympathizer, but with Tracer, there's like determine angles she's coming from. You can hear the blinks. You can kind of see the character coming, right? You kind of have forewarning. Early Sombra, it's like she decloaks on me. Keek. I'm Zenyatta. I have to hit 3 shots on head or I am dead. 100%. This guy has to be a bot to not kill me right now, right? So I remember like that being really annoying, and it was like the chain hacking was the big annoying part, right? It's like the Sombra who just sits there on the tank. Beep, 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 beep. Oh, I'm hacked. Okay, I'm unhacked. Beep, beep, beep. You know, so you're just like infuriated because like this character is just sat there and only doing this to make your life miserable. I think similar ways it kind of feels like that a lot as well, where it's like this character just runs around, left click, which is Fitzy's hero pool actually, but you know, runs around and just like left click in your face, and you're like, well, there's very little I can do now. Like this character is just annoying the crap out of me. But then they kind of address
SVB is going to be like, man, Lifeweaver, he's just so annoying.
He's so annoying. I mean, I'm a Lifeweaver sympathizer. I'm an apologist for Lifeweaver, so I won't go there. But so I think they changed that though, because they made the chain hacking not doable. Like they added the cooldown on the hack. So like that was, I think, the biggest thing. And I remember being annoyed about that, where I'm like, if I'm playing tank and the Sombra was just chain hacking me, it feels hella annoying. Now I would say like the whole Sombra impact of a game is as less as it's ever been, right? It's like the damage isn't so lethal. The hack is gone before you really even know. Like most characters, my opinion, I think it's as less annoying as possible. Samito is not convinced,
I'm not convinced, but go ahead.
Are we talking annoying or value?
I think it's less annoying than it's ever been. Is essentially what I'm saying. I think playing against Sombra is less annoying than it's ever been.
Oh, I agree with that.
Because I think that like for most characters, you can now survive the hack. Like you can get a cooldown out. Like if I guess Zen is still a bit of a problem, but he has his own thing going on. Whereas like if you're playing Ana, you always will get the chance to get your cooldowns out before, or you know, as soon as the hack runs out. Same for like BAP. For most supports, basically, you get the chance to get your cooldown out, so you're not like worried about death. And I don't think the damage is like crazy. So like I'm pretty. And again, I went on my Sombra arc, so I appreciate how hard it is to really find the value compared to heroes like Hanzo, heroes like Widowmaker, who are far more oppressive, I think, in their circumstances there, where they just kind of dominate the battlefield in their own way. So I feel like we're working towards this rework to make her less annoying when the need for that to happen has already gone a little bit. In the same way that like Roadhog, where they were like, oh god, you know, I know everyone hates Roadhog, we're gonna change his hook, and then they kind of nerfed him, and now everyone's like, yeah, he's kind of ass, and I'm okay with it because nobody likes Roadhog, and now
annoying.
Yeah. And now we're gonna rework him, and then who knows what, like whether he resurges as an annoying character. And you know, these issues keep. And Brig was another issue of like, okay, well, people don't like Brig, so we'll rework her, and now you've kind of created a different demon. So it is a bit interesting that we keep falling behind like this. But I am curious, Sam, you've kind of got some thoughts to give.
A lot of annoying heroes in Overwatch. That's what I'm discovering.
Yeah, apparently.
There's a common theme that you guys are talking about. We'll start with Sombra. Okay, common theme that I heard there. And that was, you don't know where she's coming from compared to other characters, and then it's just do hack, and that's annoying. Perma stealth was the worst possible decision they could have made for that character in season 5. And I remember pros talking about it at the time. Here's why. One, it completely baits low SR players into thinking they're doing anything by running around in every single plat and under Sombra, where her win rates are abysmal. Every single one that I ever reviewed spends an extra 10 to 15 seconds in stealth more than they need to. What I liked about original Sombra at Overwatch 1 is that she had, and Fitzy, correct me if I'm wrong, she had a bit of a rhythm to her, right? With how your stealth timer worked and how the translocator cooldown worked. Though you could probably keep it forever now, and so because translocator had a duration like of 8 seconds, if I'm not mistaken, right?
15. Sorry,
15. And then the stealth was about 6 to 8 seconds, correct?
6 seconds, yeah.
6 seconds, okay. So
I think it was
like
6. It might have been 8, actually.
Ballpark, same thing. So what that did is that created a rhythm to the character very similar to Tracer, where like, you know, she'd be coming in when she has a recall way more aggressively, blah, blah, blah. It was way more answerable. And most importantly, you know, You just kind of had a better idea where it was coming, and you didn't know she was behind you the entire game just waiting. Like, that's not a fun mechanic to play against. So it's a double whammy of bad, in my opinion, because that's where the annoying factor comes in now, because the hack's been addressed well. I think she's in a good spot in the pro meta. She's actually pretty strong in the pro meta. It's just when they made her have permastealth, it gutted the character in low ranks because people think they're doing something running around invisible, and it made it incredibly obnoxious in high ranks now that they have adjusted hack. And I think if they got rid of permastealth, they would have to change stealth, and like they would give her the movement speed, the higher movement speed that she had previously. I think it was 30%, right? And now it's 15.
No, it's like 70.
70. It was something crazy. They could give her the.
But now
increased
it
movement
was
speed.
70, then it was 50 with permastealth, and now it's like 60. So
okay, whatever it is, right?
Yeah,
you can make the adjustments, but no. I mean, we want to get it right. And I think that was the worst change they could have possibly made for that character. And I think if she had more of a rhythm to her, it would be way easier to understand where she's coming from. It would feel way less corny. So if they want to rework Sombra, which I really just don't think they need to do, I was very surprised that at this point in the game, like this is when we want, I think she's really strong right now. Absolutely. And she can be annoying, but it's kind of baffling to, if there was any reason to change Sombra, I think it would definitely be the permanent stuff. Because I remember when she was coming out, where people were like, "Hey, Blizzard, is this character going to be permanently invisible? Because that's really strong. That's really annoying to deal with in a hero shooter game." And they're like, "Oh, no, don't worry. There's a time. It's on a timer." I distinctly remember pros talking about this back in the day, and then now it's just perma-stealth. So I think that the most misleading thing they've done for the character, for 99% of the audience, is the permanent stealth. And the most annoying aspect of Sombra, at least at high level play, is that you can't know where she's coming from for the engagement. She could be set up for literally 30 seconds. And what do you do to that, right? You're not really able to interact with the player. Aside from the increased detect range, I think they gave in Overwatch 2.
Oh, and that's a bitch.
Which
Annoying.
that could be reverted. If you
exactly.
Stealth, that would be reverted. So it would be a little bit more quid pro quo, a little bit more answerable. So, I'm not really sure how you guys feel about that. I think her damage is good. I don't think that it needs to get changed. EMP's a little wonky right now, what just hard beats and what hack hard beats, sure. But, I think there are way bigger elephants in the room to address in Overwatch, particularly the sniper characters in 5v5, than Sombra currently. So I was a bit surprised to see that. But what are your all's thoughts on my take on the permastealth being the only thing that really apparently they said they wanted to do something different with Translocator. And I was like, I think the Translocator stealth interaction, I loved the original Sombra, that rhythm to it. It was fun. It was a different variation of Tracer. And that was way more assassin-y. Now you're just more of a scout. And it's I don't know. I think it's just very misleading design.
Translocator's fine. I don't know why they're trying to change that. I think that's the part of the kit that works the best and I don't have any issues with. In terms of what's annoying, I think the stealth is annoying. And I think for some people, maybe the hack is still annoying. The hack is the one thing where they've changed it a bunch. And it's also the one thing that's super dangerous to change because that's the entire identity of Sombra. I feel more so the hack is more important than the stealth in terms of if you were to pick one to define what Sombra is, the hack is definitely way more, in my opinion. It's and everything works together in a way. It all just kind of combines together, and it's fluid. So if you change something and you just kind of mess with the fluidity of the gameplay, I feel you have to then change more, or it just feels clunky. It feels bad. So much then has to shift. I don't even know how you would start changing Sombra. Maybe the perma stealth could go back to how it was in Overwatch 1. I actually wouldn't mind that. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, the thing about hack as well is that, and I'll let now Fitzy go because he should definitely get the last say on this, but the thing about hack now is that there's a very clear counterplay to it afterwards, which is that so many heroes who previously would be afraid of getting hacked, now that you get hacked and there's a cooldown on it, you have a window where you're immune to the Sombra, right? If you're a Sigma and you're I want to Flux, the best thing you can hope for is to get hacked, because then for the next 5 seconds or whatever, you can't get hacked again. So you go with the Flux.
Sigma till I have EMP, and then I go for that Flux, and then you just see him being shit.
Because I remember you and I spoke about this, right, Fitzy, where it was when you're coaching me, you're I'm okay, I'm gonna hack the Sigma, and you're wait, because he's gonna Flux soon. If you hack him now, then you can't hack him when he fluxes. He's gonna take that as a chance to go. Obviously, we were in plat, so he was fucking clueless. But point stands that there's a lot of these heroes who have a window of opportunity created once the hack is gone. So actually the way it currently interacts is has more room for flexibility than it's ever had before. So I think there's a lot more to it than I just think there's a hangover. I don't think the community have caught on the slow transition of Sombra to being what she is, where again, like the hack is being reduced and like the power of the hero has kind of fallen back, but people still see her as this old, annoying, like, oh well, the hack just completely, ruins me. But I'm curious, Fitzy, what you think.
Okay, I got a couple points here. First, we'll talk about the invis. The reason why they made perma stealth, I had no problem with the like not perma stealth. You'd like look and you're like, okay, I'm going. You put translocator, go invis, and you go in and you boom, whatever. But it did make a very like, I need to be there 5 seconds beforehand, and like we have to all in on this. So like if things change, it's very hard to adjust. You can't wait for the perfect opportunity. Their whole thing was like, Sombra can wait for the perfect opportunity if it's her opportunist. But they also did it to like, oh, that's really hard for players to get, so we're gonna make it easier so the hero's more accessible. Which is always like should every hero be viable at every single rank?
It's impossible to do. Yeah.
And it is. Exactly, because like exactly. And so some heroes just aren't going to be super viable in every meta at the low ranks, and that is the same for the high ranks as well. And I don't know that accessibility to the hero should be something that like you want to be like, wow, I'm really good at that hero. I can play that hero. Yeah, I'm not in GM or whatever, but like I can play that hero and I feel good about it because whatever. Anyways, I think they could remove the perma stealth. Especially considering the fact that they buffed coming out of invis, so you can shoot. They don't need to have the hack and stealth, but the only reason why the hacking and stealth is very good for canceling ults, canceling res, If they get rid of the perma stealth, I don't think they need to get rid of the hacking and stealth, but
agreed.
And then also the fact that you come out of stealth faster, like they could just make, because they did nerf the hack cast time. If they reverted the hack cast time, then you could if they revert the hack cast time, they could get rid of the hacking and stealth, because then you're coming out of stealth faster, so you get those hacks that you usually wouldn't have been able to get anyways. Whatever. Translocator, I think they got to keep. It's super fun. The call on why the translocator wanted to get touched was she just pops out of invis, she shoots you, and then she leaves, and you can't interact with it. But it's like, well, if she's not close, then like she's dead for 10 seconds or whatever.
It's super negative value if she's not up in the fight a lot.
And as much as you're not killing her, like you're removing her from the fight, and like you just go. Okay, Sombra's not there. So I think that's like there's been a change of design philosophy of like what and I think we've kind of seen that too. They don't want as many hard counters, but then they're kind of putting, I don't know. There's been a lot of change of like going back on the things they've said in the past in Overwatch 1. Obviously, Overwatch 2 is different, 5v5, but just like how they want things to happen. Obviously, they're giving supports more survivability, more damage, more things. Yeah. And then in terms of, what was another talk? I can't remember another point you guys made. Yeah, I don't think she necessarily needs a rework. If anything, touch the invis, make it lower. Give it a timer, give it more speed, give it lower detection radius or whatever. But she doesn't need the perma stealth. I agree on that. And yeah, I think that would help her problems or whatever, but who knows? They're not going to talk to me. What do I know? I can't offer anything. Let's just make up some random thing and then be like, wow, this is terrible. And then they're not going to go back to it. So we're just going to, I've kind of just been like,
I'm sure somewhere, I'm sure
this is what we're doing.
Go ahead, Sam.
Flipping a coin on that one. We don't know. We'll see.
I'm sure Mercy made
again, the fact that they've delayed it, like, I wonder if they've been like, maybe we don't rework, but then like, no, we'll come up with something else. And then they're like, well, she's not, and people aren't really talking about her too much, because they're like, yeah, season 1, she had high damage, she had the 1.75 hack, people didn't know how to deal with her. They see this hacked for the entire time. That's just like, I'm hacked, and it's like, you're only hacked for 1.5 seconds. Like, yeah, you're taking extra damage, you're discorded. But you should just say, Sombra discorded, and it's worse than Discord in terms of damage boost. But anyways,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, so I will say in the Dev's defense, like it is. I applaud them taking strides with heroes. Like like again, I mentioned Mercy, and
100%.
people are Mercy mains have been frequently unhappy where they're like, oh my god, stop changing our hero. I do applaud them being like, look, this hero is a problem. Okay, you guys aren't talking about it right now, but maybe it would be a problem later down the line. So we're going to address it because we feel like it's fundamentally bad for the game. So we're going to do something about it. So I applaud them for doing that. Obviously, sometimes they will miss. I don't want to spend too long dwelling on like Brig rework, but if there's any thoughts that you want to add, anyone, particularly anyone whose name starts with Samito.
I thought it was really funny that the people were like, this ult's so bad. What do I do? I'm like, guys, like so if anything, I think this ult is closer to what the envisioned design of Brigitte was, in that she was anti-dive. You anchor a point with the character, right? And you can get a lot of value from doing that. I actually saw a lot of Nano Brig come out yesterday in Owl, and I thought that was hilarious, right? Yeah, anybody who's trying to say this ult is bad is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like it's still a very, very strong ultimate. Did it break the game to the degree that we all were concerned it did? No, because Brig's mid-fight, and this is what I said on the podcast last time, I said my biggest fear was that like the Ram Brawl comps, which have been really, really strong, and Ram, by the way, let's give a quick shout out to the devs on that one. I think Ram ended up being a very, very well-designed brawl tank that found a very niche spot in the game that they've tuned well, and I don't really see too many people complaining about how, oh, I hate playing against Ramattra. Like, he can be strong, sure, but I think that's kind of what an Overwatch 2 tank was supposed to be.
Those people are there. Those people are there for
sure.
They're
there. There's answers to them, though. I find it very
why do people think the Brig ult is weak? Like, what's the justification for that?
It doesn't do damage. It's not Transcendence. No, I don't.
Here was the reason, AVRL. Like, the ladder brigs were used to being able to just run it down mid with rally and just run at things and flail and kill it, right? But the thing is with this armor now, because of how the regen works, where I thought it would stack with Inspire, apparently it doesn't. I'll have to double check it. But if you lose your initial armor, you're very squishy, right?
Your armor doesn't start growing back again. So like normally when you're rallying, your armor is building while over health is building while everyone's building. But that doesn't build anymore. You just get the one-time increase, and then all you've got is Inspire.
Does your Inspire re-heal the armor? Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
right?
no. Anything can re-heal.
No, not the overhealth. Not the overhealth. No, not the overhealth.
It's base armor health. Yes, I thought it did. I'm confused now, but
not the extra that she gets from rally though, right?
The whole thing is that rally does not give her health continually.
Does Inspire
but she doesn't get the
heal
extra
her back
armor
to
back,
300?
right?
So she goes up to 300. Does the Inspire heal you back to 300 if you drop below?
I'm pretty sure, yes.
Okay.
I'll have to double check.
Yeah,
Crazy that we don't know this. It's wild that we don't know this.
Yeah, somebody go test it. But that wasn't my point, because I honestly have been using the shield so much that I haven't even watched it. I've been watching my barrier. I think keeping track of your barrier health is more important, because if you're able to cycle the barrier and keep some extra armor, it does. People are saying, okay, it does. But yeah, they would you'd be used to just like shield a little bit, get the overhealth with the Inspire, and just like run it down mid with the speed boost and chase kills. So that you have to use a brain now, basically.
It's literally stronger in every way except if you just want to run it down. It's weaker if you want to run it down, but it's stronger in every other way. Okay, I get it now. Now I understand why all the ranked Brigs don't like it. Now I get it.
So if you and you guys can correct me, whatever. I actually don't. I haven't. Anyways, if you anti somebody and they're getting rally armor, they get the health, right?
They get overhealth, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So Brig cannot get that if she gets antied. She can't heal herself. Whereas before, if she got antied, she would just be getting the overhealth. And then obviously you would heal it up as the overhealth. But yeah, I've found, and I haven't played a ton since the change. Or I haven't played a lot of Sombra against it, but yeah, if she pops rally, you just EMP and kill her. Because she loses her shield and she loses her armor, and then she's at like 200 health, and you're like, well, you're not getting overhealth and everyone else is, so I'm just gonna kill it. Obviously, no, people aren't in that mindset yet of like, because before it'd be like, don't focus the Brig, you're not gonna kill her. But now it's like, you just hard focus her because she's not getting that overhealth.
You getting bashed now, so I'm biased.
Yeah,
there's also
a lot of.
But if you EMP, can't get bashed.
There's also the speed reduction, which makes it harder for her to chase people down.
10%, yeah. So I found that it's much better for anchoring a spot. Like objectively, you have a massive shield with an AoE stun, and like people were trying to say the stun wasn't getting value. I was like, what game are you playing? Like if you like at least at high level play, like going up against good tracers, like if you get the stun, it's almost like a guarantee force on the recall. And you can force the recall early. You can bat like anytime somebody tries to play Genji in rank, like I can cancel ults. So like there's definitely a trade-off of like before it was so mind-numbingly easy to get value from rally in that you would just pop it and this it was all stats, no brain. But now like if you have like I described it as surgical. Like you can play this with this rally surgically, and it's really good if you know what to look for. If you don't know what to look for, however, it's a bit harder. But to act like it's still not valuable was just like. And to be fair, and I want to give credit a little bit to be fair, the armor was bugged, right? Like there was a bit of a bug, but I think it's a combination of specifically ladder Brigs who never had to make the adjustment to being, because let's be real, like post 222, the level of Brig play was so simplistic compared to goats, and like actually looking for value, because there was never like a hard dive, like there wasn't like a hard dive meta in like past role queue where Brig was really played that much. Like it was mostly just either double shield Brig, which was picked for a little bit, right? But in goats, like looking for that value bash was just so essential, and knowing the timings and stuff like that about like, okay, they used X, Y, and Z. Here's the value bash I can look for. Oh, I can body by my team here. So, you know, there
Would you
wasn't too
say-
much Brig dive. Go ahead.
Would you say that it's a good change then, the rally change overall?
What is that?
I can't say I would have done it. I think it's similar. I don't know.
You think it's
I
similar?
haven't come to my final conclusion on it yet.
Okay.
I don't think that. I'll have to think on it more. I mean, as a Brig player, I like it because I can do more with it, right? Like it's like I'm two sides of the same coin. Like once you go to Brig jail, you never leave, right? So it's kind of like I'm you know, but playing against it is equally as frustrating, I think. I don't know. I like certain things about it, and I dislike certain things about it. I like that you have to be smarter with it. I do. But that's also because I like playing the character against Ball, because Ball is really annoying in ranked if you don't have a Brig. So it's
Right. So
I
yeah,
think-
we'll
I
let
will
you.
say,
We'll
I will
let you.
say, I think I jumped the gun a little bit on like this is going to be absolutely abysmal, because in my mind, the one thing that made it not as abysmal is I thought that the armor build rate also would stack with Inspire and it would be separate, and it didn't actually do that from what I understand. From what I understand, you're not getting the 15 you're not getting the 15 Inspire plus like whatever the armor build rate was at the same time.
It's
And I
15.
thought it was going to stack, which it ended up not doing, which helps. So I don't know. Too soon to tell for me. I'll have to think about it.
Fitzy, you
I
were raising
agree.
your
I
hand.
saw those patch notes and I was like, so she literally got her ultimate buffed in every single way, and it was like, well, her speed's lower, and it was like, okay, but I did not know that she wasn't gonna get the armor, you know, the full heal, or whatever. Also, the second rally's done, she's back to her lower
What she
HP,
was, yeah.
and that's something else that like, what
Brig player-
does rally last, like 15 seconds or 10 like afterwards?
It's 8. Or no, that's the bash cooldowns.
8?
No, sorry, that's the bash cooldowns are like.
It used to be permanent, so
Yeah.
let me fight this 300 HP Zen. But yeah, I think that's why a lot of people were like, "Oh my god, it's gonna be so broken," but they did not realize that the rally
had
does
that
not.
happened, it would have been insane. It would.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was like, "There's once they pop that, what are you gonna do?"
So,
There's
yeah,
nothing
and I
to do.
will-
But yeah, the fact that she does not, that she is stronger but weaker, if you focus her. I think.
First impact is there.
I will add as
So
well.
I'm
because I know-
glad that the devs did something to like, as much as they buffed it, they weren't like, yeah, we'll just give her 300 HP because she needs to be more unkillable. I'm glad that they did not like. They're like, okay, that we can't go that far. Yeah. So
I will
I
add
think
that-
they did.
go
I
ahead.
think they did pretty good with it. But the question I have for you guys is, what do you think there are going to be other ultimates? They start to make these like ultimate duration where like, you know, they've done Valk where everything about Mercy's kit is buffed during Valk. Now Brig is everything about her kit is buffed during Valk, or during her ult. You know, is it going to be like when you EMP, Sombra has 10 HP per second? You know, like, are they going to start to do these for other heroes where they're like, we don't really know what to do with the ultimate on like a flat number base. Let's just make them
Lifeweaver.
stronger for.
There you go.
The tree also just life grips
Yeah, but-
randomly every 5 seconds. It's like, you come
Yeah.
here, you come here.
Oh my
The tree gets the Lifeweaver ability.
Yeah.
Just starts doing Lifeweaver stuff.
He just starts doing his own thing. He becomes it's
Pedal
like Bob,
platforms
but
coming
it's
out.
like
They're just
Bob.
sprouting pedal platforms everywhere.
Sentient tree. That'd be great. That's an arcade change right there. I would like that.
dropped, like,
I was gonna
three
say
songs.
on the final Brig thing. I will add, because I know I'm anticipating that some people are like, how are these guys gonna comment on the Brig changes when they don't even know exactly the numbers? I think it's a lot to do with intuition. Like, they intuitively know what it looks like, how long it takes to kill this character with what things, but they may not know the finite numbers of like, oh, it does this much for this long. Like, I think that's a mistake people make in a lot of games where they're like, how's this guy who like casts this game for a living not understand the in minutia of the cooldown
Because
details?
there's a
Like,
million different numbers. There's so many
Yes.
different numbers and shit
Well,
in the game.
we've
Numbers are
also
not-
played the game for like 6 years, and so with the amount of changes that happened, you're just like, wait, I haven't really actually sat down and thought about this and theory crafted and tested and gone in and like tested every interaction. That if you're not playing the hero, you have this like, well, wait, did it do that? It used
yeah,
to.
you're like, wait, it used to do that, but now it doesn't. Oh, I can't remember now. What does it do? Yes, especially if you don't play the hero yourself. So, but you've played against heroes, so again, you know the intuitive, like, okay, this is what I got to do to kill the hero. But I won't let us speculate too much longer on Sombra changes. I just want to add any more comments on current hero and balance and rank changes. Like, how have things felt for you before we move on to talking about Microsoft and Overwatch League? So anything else? There was like an allusion to snipers. Sam, you mentioned like kind of the bigger elephant in the room is like sniper heroes.
Great sniper debate.
Reverse
I-
fall off damage.
Maybe. So I want to talk. Are we cool to talk a little bit about snipers? Are we? okay
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that,
yeah.
SVP?
Go for it.
So, I've had a lot of jokes about Hanzo and Widow over the years. My joke about Hanzo, that since his projectile speed got nerfed in Overwatch 1, is that he's the sniper that can't snipe. Because Hanzo, don't let anybody fool you. Hanzo is not a sniper character. He's a brawl character that is a sniper, right? So, like, he in sniper maps and sniper metas, he's actually not really being played a lot. It's mostly, like if it's a sniper map, it's like Widow, Tracer, or something like that. Hanzo, as a hero, excels the most in brawl as a sniper. So he's supposed to be a sniper, but he excels in brawl. So he's a very weird character. And I played Hanzo, he's my most played character. I'd be okay with losing the one shot for projectile speed, so that if he's going to fit into that brawl style, then maybe he needs to play a lot more like a Cassidy or something like that. Because the reality is, one shots in 5v5 are more oppressive. I think that's the number one thing that we all kind of not missed. We were more worried about permanent dive meta, right, than snipers just being insane. But I think that the elephant in the room, if you look at the most frustrating parts about every season aside from season 1, which was so heavy on Lucio, Kiri, Winston, that and Genji at first got his nerfs and stuff, that snipers really didn't have the chance to become apparent, right? Because like Hanzo wasn't played that
Luciana.
much. Because,
Kiri wasn't around, but yeah, Luciana.
no, in season 1?
Kiri wasn't released. Was she? No.
Kiri
For the
came
first
out-
week.
Kiri was
First
on
week.
First
Kiri
week.
was on release. Kiri was on release, I think, 100%.
Were you playable in comp?
She was
There's
in comp
definitely
for
like
the first
Ana.
week. That's what
There
I
was like
saying.
Ana being played in.
Yeah, but
Anyways.
like after that, the remainder
Okay.
of season 1, like Kiri definitely became
Sure.
dominant, and she was a dominant meta in Overwatch League and stuff like that too.
Mhm, mhm.
But you know, like Hanzo got gate kept I dive, and so did Widow. As ever since season 2, when it was not that permanent dive meta, either Hanzo, Widow, or Sojourn, or Hog, right, have all been a very sore spot for the community. The Hanzo with the random logs across the map with one shots, I will say, much lower crit rate than Widowmaker. So, to be fair, and then Widow on maps like Circuit is just the most unfun Overwatch. I would rather play goats than play against that. That's like it's insane. So what you do to Widowmaker, I'm not sure. I actually think Hanzo would be easier to change than Widow by a landslide, because Widow's entire identity is the sniper, like, which is a big like one shot. But Hanzo, like, you have Storm Arrow, which already doesn't one shot. Like, the archery doesn't necessarily need to be a one shot because he's only really played in the brawl situations now anyway. So it's a little bit tough, but I'm curious what you guys would think. I think removing
Two
Hanzo's
things.
one shot would be easier, but
I actually think Hanzo, I don't know about in ranked, but I think Hanzo does get played in sniper matchups. And funny enough, as kind of Widow support, like, hey, you wanna use the Sonic this
Sonar.
area for me? You just
Sonar,
reveal
Widow,
some shit
yep.
for me to help me snipe better.
Oh, I don't know
Um,
about that.
But second to that is like I actually agree. You know, the less one shots there are in the game, the better, in my opinion. I mean, I was here ages ago. I remember
Yeah.
one of the main reasons I was on the Great Debate was because I had a whole thing on Twitter about one shots. This is when Sojourn was in her major one shot phase, and then we kind of included Mercy in that discussion because Mercy was enabling a lot of one shots, etc. Right? So, my stance on one shots is pretty clear. I don't think they're really healthy for this game. But Widowmaker is such a weird hero where, like, if you remove the one shot, I think her entire identity's gone. Like, I don't even know what you would do with this hero if she didn't one shot. It's a really difficult hero to reimagine without the one shot. But I also have a question for Sam in terms of Widow. It's like, because you're saying like, okay, well, Widow can be pretty oppressive on maps like Circuit, whatever. Do you think she's generally oppressive in the hands of like just normal ranked players, or is it really just like 5 people in the entire world that make her look really oppressive?
She's oppressive to all ranked players. They pick the character, the game is fundamentally played different the second it's picked. It's like you can't walk around corners. Now, I will say it got better when they fixed the matchmaking because holy Jesus, when it matched like
Oh
me
my
as a
God.
GM DPS player against a hit scan player that played Widow on a Widow map, and we had Diamond Challenger on our team, and he played the Widow and I played the Hanzo. Like Widow's crit rate in GM is like 30%, or like Widow's crit rate on average is like between like 25 to like 30%. I think the scoped crit, and Hanzo's
She's too
is
easy
like,
to play then? Like what? I mean,
it's more so about the angles that she can hold and the threat of it, right? And the real problem is like the inability to interact with the character, because the reality is people are like, oh, just diver. But if you think that you can just dive, like, first of all, playing dive on a map like Circuit is just not a viable option consistently. 2, it's like, are we really going to act like there's not so much to Blizzard's credit because they actually balanced the game well? They gave supports good tools to actually answer dive and DPS, like cast roll, Kiriko TP cleanse across the map. Brig got a good pack buff, which I thought was very fair with the like 25 of the health being burst, right? So like a lot of more options came into dive, and especially with like the map design of like a map like Circuit Royale, where it's just so linear. There's no angles to go. Fitzy, you're not getting through that on Sombra very easily, and it's not efficient to go.
That's because of
all the way
Hanzo,
back to
though.
Widow. Yeah, the sonar, which we're going to talk about next year in a second. So I think it's just Widow in general, but I agree with you. Like I think that figuring out a way to make Widowmaker not be oppressive and ranked is going
I got
to
one
be
more thing.
the biggest challenge. Yeah, go ahead. The devs will
La-
face. It's so hard to do. I don't even know how to do it. I can't think of anything.
One other thing about this is wonky. I don't even know if I really buy this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. One more thing about Widowmaker, snipers, and range in general is I don't think this game should really enable super long ranges. Like I feel that medium range should be like kind of the max range the game is played at. If you understand what I'm saying, like the range that Sojourn can be effective is kind of like the range that I think Overwatch works
That's
at
the
as a
Overwatch
maximum.
experience. That's what makes it
Because, like,
unique.
Because that's like a
anything
dive range.
beyond-
That's like a dive range, right? That's within
Yeah,
reach.
anything beyond a medium range, when you start getting into like extreme ranges, like this is ridiculous. Now Widowmaker skews the game because the only thing that can interact at that range is another Widowmaker. That's the problem, right? So
fair. I think that's
is the answer just to straight up reduce the range? But then that gets like weird. It's like, well, how can you tell what the effective range is? Like, you're gonna have to do some new muscle memory where like do you have to ping everywhere to find out what your max is? It can feel really wonky. But I don't know. This is the weird thing about Widowmaker.
Work either. I think they should try. That's the first thing they can do is actually make that fall off reasonable, because her max
But
damage
isn't that hard to tell? Like then if you're a Widowmaker, like how do you tell? Like you literally have to ping everywhere to find out what your range.
I think that you can figure it out. And here's the thing: if you hit a headshot across the map, like you could kind of do what Ash does too,
So
and just do
here's-
a quick G-tap maybe, or a dive or something. But it's better than what it is right now, where you just can't interact with the character.
Here's the other thing I'll add to the equation. Before I know both me and Fitzy are sitting here stewing, waiting to get to the Hanzo point. 'Cause fucking hate that guy. I fucking hate that. I fucking hate that guy. But this is a problem across all FPS games. Like the sniper issue always comes up. Usually it's handled by map design. The problem is we have maps where you have fucking 70-meter range, and it's like there's nothing you can do, right? Like that's the problem. Like there are maps where Widow's played, but you can get to her. But there's a whole separate discussion I want to have about maps. I don't think we have time for in this podcast, and I'm kind of increasingly coming to the feeling that I'm actually not a fan of maps forcing hero diversity. I'm actually not a fan of them anymore, because I think too often we end up in a spot like this, where it's rather than actual hero diversity, it's just this is the only comp you play on this map or you lose, GG, go next. So I'm not a fan of that, but I do want to let Fitzy, I'm just going to leave that hanging for now and linger for another podcast, but I want to let Fitzy have his say about the whole sniper situation. Yeah, go ahead, Sam. One quick thing.
another thing that they must change with Hanzo that is not consistent with the game, which is why it's so annoying. The fact that sonar arrow does not tell you if you are detected is just not a healthy mechanic for the game.
bonkers, yeah.
And that is such an easy fix. And I think that leads to a lot of the problems. It's like, am I sonar? Am I not? And the buff they gave him in season 10 to sonar might need to get changed because it used to be a 20-second cooldown. Then they made it with a longer.
There's like a
duration.
2-second downtime or something crazy.
Great.
3-second downtime. It's crazy.
Sonar, it's a 12-second cooldown, and then the sonar lasts for
It
6
lasts for
seconds.
5. Yeah. Something
Seconds,
like
I
that.
think 5 to 6 seconds. So like it used to be a 20-second cooldown, and it lasted for like 6 or 7 seconds. So there was like a much longer interval of downtime, and that is just it's just not healthy, especially in 5v5.
Fitzy.
Okay, I got a few points. Reverse fall off damage for Hanzo. Listen, I
So-
don't
so
want
do you
the
wanna just
sniper
explain-
jumping at me to kill me. That's not. Listen, if
Do
I
you want to
get point
explain
blank
for anyone who
range,
doesn't know what that is? Like,
people
what is
don't
reverse
explain
fall?
it, and
reverse
not
fall?
crazy. Like not crazy. Like he has the lunge to counter it, right? So the whole thing is that like here's where you're at. Here's the target. If Widow's shooting here, you get beyond that, it starts doing less damage. Well, I'm thinking like when you're right here, you're doing like half damage, and then like right here, you're doing full. So like he jumps away and hits you, cool. But if he like is point blank range jumping through a Winston shield to snipe you, that shouldn't do full damage. That's my take on that. Of like something they could do for Hanzo. Of like, his downside is like, oh, he got dove. Okay, he can jump back and full hot hit you. But like, I don't know. Obviously, me on Sombra, I'm getting point blank range. There's like the matchup is like 95% Hanzo. Like if you're fighting against an even ranked, like there's no chance of killing him. And whatever, the same thing with Kiriko. She's hit skinny, whatever, blah. One thing that would solve all this is hero bans. All right, moving on from that. Because you play on Havana, it's like boom, we banned Widow, and then in pro scene, and I are they doing bans in pro scene?
No.
Why?
God,
They want
Why?
to. They want to.
The cats aren't
Why?
picking hero bans anymore. Don't worry.
No, that's okay. Here's the thing.
Shout out to that cat.
I'm sorry to go back to hero bans once again. You start the game, you're arriving at this map. The part where you have 15 seconds to select your hero, instead of 15 seconds, you have 5 seconds. Okay, you have 10 seconds to select a ban, and then 10 seconds to select your hero. So it's like 10 seconds, select your ban. Everyone clicks one. It randomly picks one for your team, randomly picks one for the other team. Boom, select your hero. Neither team can play those heroes or ban. Blah, blah, blah. Moving on. I won't discuss. I could talk about this forever. Anyways, you play on a sniper map. People ban Widow. If they if they're like, no, don't ban Widow. I want a 1v1. Then like, sure, both teams want the Widow duel. Both have a respectable Widow player, right? You both are like, don't ban Widow. If the other one doesn't, then it's like, okay, they probably have enough ego to like reasonably 50-50 the Widow duel. Sure. But then when there's those times where it's like, well, they got a Widow player, we don't. All right, this is great. Like there's so much limitation to how you can interact. Now, I will say something I don't think I have seen explored is Sombra getting in position and Kiriko TPing in. You just insta kill the Widow. She comes in, flink, she's dead. You're like, I see you thinking about it. Think of like
Just
Circuit
dying at
Royale.
that time, though.
But
Huh?
isn't the carry just mega out of position then?
But you kill
Afterwards?
Widow, and then your whole team shows up and kills him.
It's not a worth trade generally.
Ah?
Probably not. Well, maybe it depends. And either way, like the Widow has grapple to get away. The Zen
Not if you hack her.
The BAP drones. It's a tough reaction.
I mean, that's
It's
not really
doable.
that's not really an answer, though, is it? That's not really an answer to
What?
the
And then
Widowmaker
you're
problem.
stuck on an
It's not a Widow that's an answer.
No, but it's not a
Anyways,
reliable
anyways.
answer to be like, we're gonna Sombra and I'm gonna coordinate with my Kiriko to TP on me to kill the that's not a reliable answer to the hero. Anyways, carry on with your other points.
attempt.
What was the other one? I don't know. Yeah, I don't think they can really remove Widows. I mean, they can make her 150 HP, whatever. Like, just make her more
my
like
God.
weaker. But I mean,
Oh
if
my
that's
God,
if
dude.
that's what it takes, like
This-
at what point do you get that? To where she's like, you can
when you're
compete
done, I
with
think I have
her.
a solution.
Just have
Yeah, go
May
ahead,
one
bro.
shot her. No, I'm just kidding.
Damn,
All right, you go ahead. You go ahead.
The more I think about it, the more I think legitimately the range is the issue, because that is what caused the biggest frustration. Because again, nothing else interacts with Widow at the extreme range except for another Widow. maybe a Hanzo if you just throw logs in there, but like even they're not really.
The
You can't
drop
really
off is
outdeal.
too hard. The drop off.
Exactly. So here's another proposed change. I've just been cooking in my mind while Fitzy's been talking. You could actually change the scope in multiplier, not the damage multiplier, but like the zoom multiplier on the scope, such that like it's harder to get, a zoom in at long range. So do you know what I mean? Like you can reduce the range via what the scope in multiplier is in terms of how zoomed in you are. So you can't actually snipe effectively at long ranges because everything's too small. As well as adjusting the actual damage fall off. That'll force Widowmaker to be playing at more of a medium range rather than the long range. And at a medium range, more heroes can actually interact with her, because to respond to something you said earlier, SVB, about how snipers are handled in other FPS games. First of all, they're balanced by risk reward due to the cost of snipers. If you're buying a sniper in Valorant or Counter Strike, it's the most expensive gun in the game. It's huge risk reward there in terms of economy. But beyond that, those types of games and Call of Duty as well, it's balanced by the fact that every other player can interact with the sniper basically at any range anyway, because you can still one tap the sniper with an AK or with whatever. You can still outduel the sniper with a rifle at basically any range, because the time to kill is so fast, right?
Well, the
that
map is
doesn't
never
exist in
that far
Overwatch.
range, right? The map isn't like you're always within the range of the AK. Is the
Yeah.
point?
No, but
right?
there's long ranges. You can find super long ranges in Counter Strike and Valorant maps as well, where like snipers dominate. But the point is, it's like even at those ranges, if you are good enough with a one tap rifle that can like one tap headshot kill, you can beat the sniper, technically speaking. So it still feels more fair. Whereas that does not exist in Overwatch at all. You literally have to play another Widowmaker. The only thing that's close is like a Hanzo. Ash can't outduel at that range.
Yeah.
I am still debating whether I think the Widowmaker one shot should be removed. And the more I think about it, if you remove the one shot away from Widowmaker, isn't she just like a clone of Ash?
Yeah,
Don't
you
you just have
can't.
like Ash
You have to
2.0?
let her keep
And
it.
that's just dumb, right?
I think you're right. I think you're so right about that. I think they need to make the range more reasonable. And on the subject of like how snipers are balanced in other FPS games, I want to tip the hat and take a look at how Warzone used to do it and how Call of Duty would do it. And that there's a couple things that would balance one-shot snipers like Widowmaker. One, the fire rate, right? If it's a one-shot headshot, right? The fire rate of the sniper generally is lower. Two, the mobility, which Widow has a ton of mobility with grapple. I think Widow's mobility is actually better than Hanzo's to get out of a full dive, because Hanzo leap is decent, right? But like Widow grapple can take you like way farther, way higher up in the air. Well, I'm not saying one's objectively better, but she just has a very good mobility option to just elude a dive. And then the third one would be like fall off damage or bullet drop. With Widow not having bullet drop, I think the big problem was I think you're just right on the money. I think when they tried to give her the fall off damage, the range was they just got the numbers wrong. And if they tweak those numbers, I do think Widow has to be able to one shot. I think Hanzo, because he thrives, like he's so good in the brawl comps. Like Hanzo, like even like I love playing him against goats. Like he was so good against that, because the dragon's great for displacement. Dragon's just such a bad ult. Like if they're not playing brawl, dragon's just a bad ult because it's just good for splitting and zoning. But the main comps I think we've seen him get played and get the most value in, where people are the most annoyed at him, is those brawl comps where it's like, oh, I don't know if I sonared, especially with one tank, or and against Ram Brawl too, where like with Rhine Brawl, when it was traditionally Rhine Brawl, like Rhine was able to walk with his shield more and there would be more shield up time. But with Ram, his big brawl is the Nem form where there's no shield. So the whole backline is vulnerable to one shot while brawling, right? Which we never really seen before. Again, shout out to Ram's design. I think he's a really fun character. I hope to see more tanks like him. Excuse me. But yeah, I think you're just on the money for the range. I'm okay with giving Hanzo, say, more prog speed and taking away the one shot or something of the sort, right? I think that Hanzo would not lose his identity like Widow would if you took it away.
Yeah,
I think Hanzo is different.
Hanzo needs to lose the one shot. I think that's annoying as hell as well. I think he should be like a projectile.
Annoying.
If it's taken from Sojourn, and it's taken from Hog, and I think it'd be better for the game and get like I think there are ways to make Hanzo still be fun and unique.
The only problem I have with aggressively reducing Widow's range is you have to reconcile how the gameplay feels so it doesn't feel clunky, and the cognitive dissonance that exists for Widow is if your zoom in range is still really long, it makes it feel like she's a long range sniper, but then it doesn't marry up with the range. It's like you're like, what the hell? I'm shooting at long range, but I do no damage. So you have to adjust the range. What I'm saying is like you have to in terms of the feel of the character, which is this intangible, airy fairy thing, Ashe is a great designed sniper in my opinion, because she does it one shot, but she feels good to use, and the zoom in range feels fair. Like you kind of get like a good visual indicator of what you think her range might be just based on what the zoom when you scope it on Ashe, right? They kind of got to do that with Widow. Like whatever the desired range is, whatever the optimum range you want Widow to play in, that should be how far you scope in terms of the zoom, and not like the whole damn map. I think that's what it needs to be. I think you can reconcile the cognitive dissonance between like she feels like she should snipe really long range because you're zooming too far versus bringing her range back, and you reconcile that with changing the scope.
I got an idea.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
If she
Fitzy,
gets
then we'll
shot,
move
it
on.
automatically unscopes you.
Oh, that would be awful though. That
Is that
would
just
suck.
annoying?
What if they made it? What if they made
Annoying.
it like?
Annoying.
What if they made it?
Imagine you're
where like
scoped
if
in,
you
you're
get
about
shot,
to shoot someone, and then
you do
Sombra
like half
translocates.
damage. You get shot. If you get shot within the last second, you do half damage.
Now, how about this? Wait, question. I feel like people would hate this. Scope sway? I don't know. I don't think I kind of like how
It's
It's just
Overwatch.
Call of Duty.
Yeah, I don't.
sounds
I
like
don't
let's
like
just
the
add a
idea.
Call
I
of
got
Duty
one. I got
mod.
one. I got one.
I like
How about we-
rewarding players adequately, but
How about we make it Team Fortress 2 and she has a dot that just appears on the map. You can
Yeah, there's
see
a
where
little
she's
map
looking.
now. Yeah, okay.
No,
I mean, I
not
think-
not a mini map. Just like I don't know if you guys have played TF2.
No, I've not played TF2.
Like, well, when the sniper in TF2 is scoped in, his red
the
dot
flare?
can be
The
seen
flare?
on
Like a laser.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's like a laser, but you don't see the
they
laser.
have
You
them
just
in
see the
Warzone.
end. You just see the dot from the end of the laser on a wall, so you can see where he's aiming. Because if you can see a dot on the wall, you know he's looking there.
that would be a good change, honestly. I think that would be helpful. I wouldn't
Well,
mind.
I mean,
I more
do
think
you
about
know- do you-
scope sway too. It'd be bad.
It would be.
She would just like, oh, I'm looking over here. Flick shot.
Well, but also it's like when I'm peeking that first corner of Circle Rail, I fucking know the Widowmaker's looking at me. That doesn't help me. It doesn't help me
you.
shit.
Yeah,
It
it's true.
doesn't help me
reloading.
jack shit.
Oh, it helps a little. It gives player. It's the same thing as like the problem with sonar arrow not telling you you're detected, right? It's like, okay, like at least I could.
That's
I
different
have
though. You don't know
something
he's.
in the game.
That's different.
telling
That's
me.
different. I think that's different. I
think
agree
it's
that
the
it would be
same thing. I think
helpful
it's
I've got a feeling they've got a sonar arrow.
because you can sonar a spot that protects a flank. You're not checking for a Widowmaker checking a flank. Like you sonar on an off angle. You're not thinking the Hanzo's staring at the off angle, so you can't like you flank him, but he knows you're flanking him. That's the big difference, I think. The Widowmaker,
I
you're
think
like.
it's the same ballpark. It's for me. It's about just letting the player have somewhat of an idea what they're going up against, so that they're at least feeling like they're playing Overwatch.
But I don't think
like,
it would make a big enough difference. So compared to Sonic, like okay, that
I'm
would
not
help.
saying it's going to be a huge difference. I'm saying that
Yeah,
like
yeah.
at least that there's something in the game that lets the player actually interact with the character, right? And that
Yeah.
I at least can see where they're looking. And I'm not saying it's going to be super impactful, but like I don't see a reason why that shouldn't necessarily exist in a 5v5 game.
You just
Yeah.
don't want to make the game too annoying for the Widowmaker player, which is why like reducing her health more or like
Yeah.
the sway
You
or
all-
stuff like
honestly,
that
if
just
you
makes
give
the
her a good-
gameplay ass.
Yeah, I agree. No sway. But if you make the damage range reasonable, like on the fall off, you could even revert the health because if she's in a diveable range, like
Exactly.
I think
yeah, she
I
can
think
go
one
back
of the
to 200.
reasons why, and that actually might get her more playtime, right? So I don't want to gut Widow's playstyle because some of my favorite moments in the Overwatch League, like Link Service Soul Dynasty Season 1, like that's fun to watch. And as much like I hate Widowmaker, I hate playing against Widowmaker. She's my least favorite hero to play against in the game. But at least I can acknowledge that she should have a spot in the game for players who love playing hit scan that are insane with aim. They should be able to enjoy that. So I think it's a very fragile. It's a tightrope to what's the dude. My sayings have been so bad recently. I gotta up my game. I've fallen off SVB. My analogies. suck.
Your analogies aren't.
Yeah,
quite
it's a
true.
tightrope. It is a tightrope.
It's a
It's
Use
tightrope.
that.
Yeah.
We'll leave it
Yeah,
at
I
that.
mean, this is one area you can't envy the devs because it is a problem,
Yeah.
but there's no obvious solution to it. Like there's sometimes you're like, oh, just do this, but this one they'll have to get creative with it. So this is one an actual rework would be needed. Yeah, ironically they haven't really mentioned it, so I would probably say for anyone hoping for it to happen, considering it takes them like 3 to 4 seasons to rework any hero, even if now they were to acknowledge they're going to rework Widowmaker, it'd probably be like season 7 or 8 before
Season
you
10. Season 10. Hanzo got his rework in Overwatch 1. We're going to season 10 this game. For
Hey, I
Widow.
loved 9. I loved 9. That was great.
Yeah, that was hard Sombra meta, wasn't it? That was the first. What did they do to her? I forget
And
what it was.
then Brigida happened.
everything
Brigida
changed when the
happened.
Fire
Season
Nation
10 was
attacked.
Brigida.
Fitzy,
Okay.
you were in the eye of the hurricane that season, man. You were
Oh,
right.
Okay, so we've kind of talked a lot about awards. There's a couple of extra things I want to talk about just quickly. I know we're kind of approaching what we said we would take, but let's head over to quickly. I think this one will be handled quickly. Then we'll head over to Overwatch League afterwards. The Microsoft acquisition news that, for those who haven't been following, that they basically UK has moved to block the current Microsoft acquisition, basically on the grounds of uncompetitive. Again, that issue that keeps cropping up in this merger of like, well, if you give Call of Duty to Microsoft, is the game over? Basically, is it too much domination in the gaming industry for one company to have? So I'll take it to Sam first. Obviously, this is kind of bad news for anyone who's hoping for the Microsoft takeover of Activision Blizzard. But yeah, how do you read the situation?
I'm bummed, and I'm bummed for a couple reasons. One, the main reason I'm bummed is because that put this company in a state of flux for a year and a half, in which a lot of stuff towards upper management probably got held up due to the impending acquisition. Like things objectively became slower because of it, right? Now, if it happened, like the amount of resources that could have happened, like I would have loved to have seen what. By the way, like this deal's not 100% dead, but most likely it is. When this happened, like most likely this deal is just not going to happen because there is a time limit on like whether or not the acquisition can happen. So I would say it's incredibly likely that this deal will not go through, which I'm bummed about. So I'm bummed that we kind of had a year and a half of like, well, what's going to happen with the company? Because that definitely probably slowed things down. Does it have anything to do with why we haven't heard about PvE? Maybe. We don't know. I just think it would have been very healthy for the multiplayer games. I think I was really excited to see the ecosystem that Microsoft would create with Game Pass. And I think that it would have been very fun to see a lot of the titles that I love playing be at the centerfold of I think without a doubt, the biggest gaming project ever really taken on, like in the history of gaming, with like that, the amount of titles that Microsoft like would have collectively owned would have been a bigger ecosystem, which was their goal, to kind of control that ecosystem, than anything we've ever seen in gaming. And if they did it right, it could have been revolutionizing. It would have been really fun to see happen and unfold. Because I love this industry, I love the games, but I'm just a little sad. I'm just a little sad. But hopefully, I would not rule out a company like Apple coming in now or something a buy very much still could happen. You never know. There's these guys like Amazon probably wants to get in there. Apple wants to get in there. Google probably wants because Google tried with Stadia. Remember, Google failed with Stadia. It just didn't work. Right. So, and they don't have the distribution problems that Microsoft has to get the deal shut down. So I wouldn't rule off the table another buy, but this one's up in smoke, unfortunately.
I gotta ask. I don't understand something about this whole the UK blocking it. Does every country get a say? I mean, Blizzard's an American company. Do they have to answer to every country out there? Like what the Vatican City decides, we're not happy with this. Pope Francis is like, no, we don't want the Blizzard deal. Like it's so every region Blizzard operates in has to agree to this, or what? Like what?
Yeah, if they're operating in that country,
works?
they have to operate by that country's law, from what I understand. Like, do you remember there was the big loot boxes issue in Europe? And what was that, 2018, 2017, where like loot boxes were getting outright banned or something? And there was like legal issues with that. Or honestly, I'm not an expert on this. I'm not going to pretend to be. But from what I understand, like if it gets shut down there, that's a significant setback. And I know it directly affects the distribution in their area. Like I think if they shut it down and they tried to like go with the acquisition anyway, maybe like Call of Duty just wouldn't be available in the UK or something. I don't know what it would be.
I think it would affect how Microsoft is able to run their business in the UK effectively. Basically, like it would be like the UK saying like we don't tolerate your business in our country because it's like anti-competitive. Basically, like it's unfair practice. So I think that would severely hamper all their business in the United Kingdom. And obviously, like with Europe, it's easier because most of Europe is in the European Union. So like if you pass it through there, you've kind of got the clear on several of the major markets.
You have to go through so many countries. At least it's not every single country in the world. Because I'm sitting here thinking like, bro, you have to get everyone's blessing. Like,
again, I think if you don't care,
Kim Jong-un's blessing to get this merger.
Yeah,
done.
exactly.
Like, come on.
I think if you didn't care about the market, you'd be okay with it. But obviously, losing a market like the UK would be a big blow to.
It'd be massive. That'd be a big.
To both, and also I think there's a chance that it causes a country like the UK can cause precedent, right? Where if the UK blocks it, then the rest of the European Union will be like, wait a minute, like they're blocking it, we should block it too, right? So like it kind of creates a bad. If it was some like I don't want to roast any particular country, but if it was some like irrelevant country, I don't think anyone would care. But I think because obviously the UK has soft power, then it's a problem.
Those plat countries.
Yeah, the hard stuck plat countries. Yeah, I mean, any thoughts, Fitzy? I don't know if you've been following this or you had any thoughts. No, shrug.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Oh man, I don't know. Is there like a way through? Like, surely there's a way
So-
for the UK to be like, maybe that's okay. Like, what is? I don't understand
there's
what
an
the
appeal
problem is.
process. It takes you back to the same court. Since 2019, there has been 7 other deals similar to this one that have gone back to the appeals court. All 7 of them have been shut down, and only 3 of them made it back in the room. So Microsoft has said they're going to try, and like they're willing to concede more, basically asking what's going to happen. But from what people, I don't, yeah, a lot of talk. The main talk in the big banking and the big investment companies is that this deal will not go through right now.
I mean, I think the biggest problem, to touch up on something I think you said, Sam, is like, so it feels like some things are in limbo and just waiting because the deals come. It's like, well, we're not going to work on this. We're going to do this because, I mean, the deal's around the corner, right? So, kind of waiting to see what happens.
Well-
And it still feels like I mean, if they're going to go through the appeal, how long is that going to take? How long
they'll go-
going to be in limbo?
Yeah,
For?
there is a time limit on this. There is a time limit on the deal, and I think it actually might be approaching. I'm not sure what it is, but this might be a good segue here, because from what I've heard behind the scenes from some of the Overwatch League players is that they've heard down the grapevine or whatever that like it feels like some things got slowed down because of the deal impending. Because I think the reality is like that's just real. Like this would be like it's an $80 billion acquisition. Like the company was going to change massively from it, right? Like it's a big deal. So I don't know, but maybe we can use that as a transition out.
Yeah, no, it's a good segue. It is a good segue. I will add, because I think a lot of times people ask this question like, why do you guys care? Like, what does this matter? Obviously, it changes the hierarchy. Obviously, we've kind of said it on the podcast, and may as well say it again. Fuck Bobby Kotick, and anything to get that fucker out of the meddling in Overwatch would be great for Overwatch. And again, the resources of Microsoft would potentially be helpful for Overwatch as a franchise. And all its extraneous for parts, much like Overwatch League, and resident shill employee AVRL is here to now promote the Overwatch League.
Paid actor?
Paid actor, as we're all
actually
paid. We're all
Actually
getting our
paid,
checks.
thankfully.
We're all getting our checks from Blizzard Entertainment, so obviously that's happening. But
By the way,
AVRL
the response,
yeah.
really quick, the response to that question, by the way, like, why do you care? It's like, I mean, the easy response is like drama, news. I mean, just stir the pot. Like, who cares? I mean, just something to talk about.
It's
What do you
always
mean,
fun
who
to see
cares?
too. It's always fun to
Yeah.
see. Like this would be the biggest acquisition in gaming history. Like it's literally history in front of us. Like
It's
people are
like,
going to
what do
look
you
back on
mean?
that deal.
Yeah, well, it's like, I don't even understand that question. Like, it just seems like a stupid question. What do you mean, who cares? What?
Well,
Anyway.
that'd be how people be, Avril. I'm afraid that's how people be. They're like, why you're not
What?
talking about the interaction of Ryan versus this guy now? Well, this is not relevant to Overwatch. Okay, anyway.
This doesn't help me win rank game.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, the Overwatch League. So I confess, I did not catch it yesterday, but by everyone's metric, it went really well. I saw the production. The production values looked awesome.
Yeah.
And the games were apparently really hyped. So, Avril, do you want to tell us a little bit about what was happening yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. You check some screenshots out there, or actually just tune in today. I think the games will be starting. They might broadcast might be on live already right now. I have to check the timing on that. But yeah, there's a new studio, and yeah, it is live. They're doing Watchpoint right now. They're doing a telestration. They have a really slick looking studio with like an actual desk. Everyone's in person. High quality production. 4K is back as well, which is really hype.
Shout out
Drops
Flats for
work
calling
straight
it out.
away. Yep. Drops work straight away. I think last season there was a whole problem with the fact that drops weren't on the broadcast for like ages. Drops are just here from day one. And the quality of the games. I mean, we got a 5-map banger to start out with Shock versus Toronto, so everything's looking good. I'm on later today for the East region, which will be debuting way later, like over another 12 hours from now. So that's not coming anytime soon, but it will be later today. It'll be the birthday cast. So things are looking fun. There's going to be contenders teams in the Eastern region this time around. So there's an actual, when you talk about Path to Pro, there's an actual direct Path to Pro. If you are just some guy, you're playing contenders, you can actually make Overwatch League this year. Like the actual Overwatch League, not just Pro-Am.
That's
So you could legitimately win out. Like there's an actual pathway
Crusher
of playing through
69?
contenders
Crusher
and winning the
99?
entire Overwatch League. Yeah, Crusher's 69 where you at. Like that version.
So do you want to just elaborate on a couple of things? Because I think, again, as myself, so someone who hasn't followed closely, and a lot of people will be interested but not have followed closely. obviously there's a situation with the Chengdu Hunters and them basically
Oh, yeah.
not being there right now. So do you want to elaborate? Like, what do you have any idea what like the sentiment is over there, and also just like how this kind of contenders thing came to be? Because that's not how it works in the Western regions, right?
No. Well, let's start with Chengdu. So to clear up any rumors, that actually has nothing to do with the NetEase China deal. Everyone thinks it's got something to do with the whole like, oh, there's no Overwatch in China anymore. Chengdu Hunters is owned by Huya, which is a streaming platform in China. There's a bunch of different streaming platforms in China. It's not just like a monopoly like Twitch here. And Huya is like they've done really poorly over COVID, and they're kind of, if you look at their stock price, it's plummeted. So they are like losing money hardcore. So this company Huya is like going bankrupt nearly. So I don't know if Huya is going to be around for much longer, and they like legitimately can't field the team. Like you can imagine, Overwatch League, which is like any esport, is the bottom of the priority list for this company that's trying to legitimately stay alive. So this is not like just some company that doesn't care anymore. Like no, this company is like potentially going under. So it's a totally different circumstance, and it actually has nothing to do with the whole NetEase publishing deal in China. So that's one rumor to clear up. But it does mean that they don't have a team. It does mean for the first time we're operating on less than the maximum number of teams, which is 20 currently. And because there's only 6 teams based in Asia and the other 13 teams are based in North America, you need to sort of even up the numbers slightly to make it more competitive and to make it, I don't know, like a better broadcast and a better tournament environment. They've allowed contenders teams to enter the fray this year, and that's how the contenders thing came to be, to round out the numbers from 6 to 12 in Asia and the Eastern region. There's actually an Australian team in there as well who might make AL this year, because 6 teams from contenders will make it, which is an absolutely crazy thing. So that's wild.
So good.
That's
I
really
think
great.
that's so
I
good.
think that's really great for the game. Like I think most of us want it to be competitive, to be a path to pro, as everyone has kind of thought about since the start, and this sounds like exactly that.
They should do that in NA too. They should find a way. I know the pro am's so good, but like just as your resident contenders player, I guess. I have seen so much talent that, I mean, look, Sugar Free's in the league for the first time like this year, right? This is his first year. That dude has
Yeah.
been crazy since he was 14, and he's been able to play at that level for that long. Like, it's such an amazing story to be able to see, like, just all these contenders players that like grind path to pro that perform well against AL teams. Every year there's been several contenders teams that would take out bottom tier AL teams. Every year it's happened.
Yeah.
I
It's
might
gonna
be
happen
talking.
again.
I might
Kind
be
of,
talking
it already has
Spinbucks right
happened.
now. Yeah. I mean, look what just happened with Trick Room and the Shock. You can't tell me that wasn't fun to watch. That was crazy. They're Infected's over there emoting, right? And we've seen this guy play NA ladder since he was 12. There's clips of him putting out LFTs for a plat team, right? Like to me, that's what the story of Crusher 99 was. Like, it was you can make the overleague, like you can do this, right? I mean, this is back when Jake and Raucus were on the Today Show talking about it. People were like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And this is like right when Fortnite's happening too. So I think Overwatch League finding a balance between the franchises and getting contenders teams in and out for reps is just a much more, especially with the fast. No, Avril, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to say a faster turnover between players in esports compared to like traditional sports, but an earlier and lower barrier to entry. Like, because the difference between like physically between a, say, like a 15, 16-year-old kid compared to like a 25, 26-year-old NFL player, there's no possible way that a kid could be able to play in the NFL. It's impossible. But in esports, like, again, how old you are doesn't matter. What you look like doesn't matter. Where you're from doesn't matter. Like, we can all make it happen. So I think like being able to actually take advantage of that and having more people be able to compete at a higher level if they're capable of doing so, even if they're at a younger age. Obviously, there's like, if they're minors and working and playing professionally, that's obviously a conversation that needs to be had with their parents, et cetera, with all the due diligence done. But if everybody's okay with it and the kid can handle that responsibility and it's actually healthy and it's something they want to do, I don't see why not, right? I had my first job bagging groceries when I was 15, 16. I can handle it. I set the world record at a Kroger for the fastest aisle clean of all time. I was speed running it, man. And I was grinding Minecraft at the same time. So you know, I think it's something special, and I think that could be esports big is that, hey, like this is what makes us different, and like especially with Overleague, with all the talent that's come through contenders, it's just so sweet to see that happen. I'd love to see more of it. I love it. I love it all.
They
more to Coach
reduced
League.
they reduced the age from
Mhm.
18 to 17 as well as in terms of
That's
limits.
good.
That actually allowed a few players to enter. Ironically, Sugar Free turned 18 this year. So the year that he turned 18, they reduced the age to 17, even though that guy's been waiting since he was like 13 or something like that.
Yeah.
That's hella unlucky. Unlucky
Yeah.
for him, but he's there
They-
anyway.
Mhm.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm curious, Fitzy, have you been at all following the Overwatch League, or have you got any interest in it?
Overwatch League, I have not. I have not been
No.
watching. But
Is there
I mean,
anything
I
that-
have played the professional realm, but I was also 18 when I did. So,
Starcraft.
but StarCraft, they like anybody could compete. There
Yeah.
were kids showing up that were 13 playing an MLG. When I don't know, is MLG still? I don't think MLG was. I can't
there's
remember
no
when
more
he was in
MLG.
Poopod or whatever where they exist now. But yeah, I mean, there's kids now that are old enough or older, but they were showing up with their dad and playing at 13, taking out these Korean pros. And they're still around in the scene in StarCraft. Again, I don't really follow the professional
Yeah,
StarCraft
there've
scene
been
at the
there've
moment,
been
but
like I think Raynor was 14 and he started competing. Sarah was 16 and he was winning tournaments. So like,
yep.
these elite players are competing in these other
So
sports.
yeah, going from StarCraft where it was anybody could compete any tournament, like there was no rules for age, to Overwatch League where it's like, oh, they have to be 18. It was like, I don't. And again, I'm not laws and all of that, whatever. Like that's not something that I had to personally deal with and like figure out, because by the time I was professionally competing, I was already 18, so it didn't matter. But yeah, I mean, I think anything, if somebody is capable to play that level, then, and everyone, you go to the doctors and it's like, who's signing for you? Oh, it's the parent or legal guardian. Like, can you do kind of the same thing? Obviously, doctor's different. I mean, I don't. That's terrible. That was
No, I
terrible.
mean,
no.
But somebody's signing for you of legal.
my layman's
You go rock climbing. You go rock climbing, and then it's like you have to sign a waiver.
Yeah, a waiver,
maybe.
right. My layman's intuition would be that because it's a formal contract that OWL gives you and not just prize winnings, that's what makes it different.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's
It's
a
a legal thing there.
contracted. Yeah, so like that's what, as opposed to just winning prizes in a tournament, which is kind of opt in. But yeah, I mean, is there anything that would bring you back? Have you ever be interested in OWL? It's interesting as a POV
If it's
of
on
someone
Twitch.
if it's on Twitch, you'd watch.
That's true. Contenders
I have
on
not
Twitch.
watched it. I have watched it so few on YouTube because I now, to be fair, I am not somebody who spends time on, like, I don't watch YouTube videos in general. Like, I'll let me Google search something. Okay, I watch a video. I don't let me go to YouTube and go down the rabbit hole, like whatever. So I'm not on YouTube. Whereas Twitch, I'm like, oh, let me see who's streaming Overwatch. Oh, Overwatch League's on. Okay.
YouTube had an opportunity to really bump up OWL, but they did not do what they needed to do. It's a better, and I've been streaming on YouTube for 6 years now. Overwatch League belongs onto. Honestly, you know what? I don't think they should sign an exclusive contract with anybody. I think they should multi-stream to every platform. Multi-stream.
And this is where I think, I mean, okay, you have these, I don't know, whatever. You have these people that are like, hey, I'm gonna go stream on Facebook. No one's trying to go start streaming on Facebook. If you have an established base, you're not like, I'm gonna just go to Facebook. Like, you're getting paid. That's why you're doing it. YouTube was probably the same thing, and that's fine. But like, you have to understand that the growth, you're trading your growth for the game for money, and you can do that, but like, you need to do something with it to continue. Like, how long do you want this to go on? And yeah, I mean, as AVRL said earlier, of Twitch having monopoly, obviously it's not a strict monopoly, but pretty strong compared to
Overwatch League on Kick.
Yeah.
Overwatch League on Kick when?
I joked about that. I went into Flatz's stream and he was talking about that stuff. He's like, yeah, I should stream everywhere. I'm like, dude, I wouldn't even mind if they started streaming on Twitch and Rumble and everything. Just fucking put it everywhere. But like, it's the debate between, do you maximize viewership or do you take the guaranteed money? And the guaranteed money pays for salaries. Like there's safety in the guaranteed money.
And that's fine. But clearly things like, I'll go even though I don't play Dota much anymore, I'll have like 2 weeks I play every. There was a huge patch. Oh my god, it's like
Yeah,
biggest
those patches are really cool.
There's like a 14-hour video of like explaining everything in the patch. Of like, you think I see these Overwatch patches? I'm like, Dota, yeah. But anyways, they the international happens where I don't know how their whole tournament thing works, but like there's tons of money involved from just like the community just paying for the game to do, like it'll do itself. The community is there. You just have to let them do it. I don't know.
With Dota, go ahead, Fitzy.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, I think the localized regions of like the whole thing was like, there's gonna be this city and this city, and you're gonna go in person, and we're gonna go, and then COVID happened, so it kind of just butchered it. In terms of like, hey, we're gonna go in person and watch this in an arena. Like, I would have done that. I haven't yet, aside from BlizzCon. But I feel like that just hasn't. Teams didn't travel or whatever. They kind of, and I don't know. Maybe they are doing that now. I haven't really paid too much attention. But that's what I was looking. Do what?
No one's traveling.
Yeah, and that's what I was looking like. That's gonna be so cool. Like they're just like basketball teams and football teams where they're traveling, and people travel with them and whatever. Like people clearly do that, and in the U.S., I mean, I'm assuming the same elsewhere, but obviously it's different. Soccer's more dominant. Blah blah blah. But I was excited to like, yeah, what if they have a Cincinnati team, and I'll go down there and watch. It's a local thing. I want to support the local thing, and then like
we're gonna be on the team.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I was like, if Cincinnati team, I'm gonna be trying to get on that 100%. But being able to go see them in person and stuff, like that's what I was excited about, and then that didn't happen. So
I will just
in terms of the franchising, sorry.
Yes, continue. No, it's all good points. I was just gonna add to the Dota context. Like they obviously, the way they do it is that they will offer a battle pass specific for their international, and everybody who buys it is contributing to the prize pool. And it's always like the biggest prize pool in esports. Like it's like ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I don't even know what it is now.
It's like
but every year it's more. Yeah,
it's insane amounts.
Sweet.
So again, it's like something worth investigating. These are all avenues worth investigating for. Like, I mean, I'm sure the devs have thought about it. I'm sure they're not, they know what's happening in other games too. So I'm sure they've thought about it. But it is like these things would be great because.
Wait. Look at Avril's chair right now.
Yeah, Avril's chair is not my chair. Imagine if I also left now. It'd just be like I just leave it in.
Do it.
If we just do it like this, just like do it like this now, and it's just like. Now it's just two Avrils.
Wait. Is your room green screen right now?
His is inverted. No.
Wait, is that your actual room or is that a green
this is
screen?
legit my room. What do you mean?
Samito's still stuck. He still doesn't understand what's going on.
We covered this in the first 5 minutes, Sam. What's the question? Come on, like we've talked about this already.
I can't tell if SVB's room is also a green screen that he sent you the image of or not. Like I'm just like, I'm right now, I don't know. Like it's the two of them.
Are you sure you're capable of playing Lifeweaver?
What if it's actually my room and SVB stole it?
No. Yeah.
This is a VTube actually. I'm actually like a white dude from Cincinnati as well. Actually, this is also a VTube.
Hey, listen, our Cincinnati, we know how to do beer over here. That's what I'm talking about.
I was gonna respond to the Dota thing real quick by saying that, like, first of all, we know Overwatch players love their battle passes, so they would dig that. Another battle pass, I'm sure they would love that. Now I think like in a I would love to have something like that because I think it would work, but at the same time, I don't know how much the Overwatch audience would jive with that because there's a part of me that legitimately believes that if Overwatch League tried a battle pass that was esports related. Just by the way, Riot has these things as well. You would get some Overwatch casuals coming in with takes like, oh, Blizzard can't afford to fund their own esports. They're trying to get the fans to fund it. They'll say something stupid like that, even though Valve and Riot literally do it. But it just feels like the Overwatch audience will immediately latch onto the negative angle.
Who cares?
Overwatch. I'm gonna say it. Overwatch competitive is very casual compared to like Dota and League.
Yep, it is.
And, like just the general fan base and people that play. Like Dota's okay with like, wow, this is a pub Sombra hero, but watch the pros do it. They're great. Like they don't care. They're like, man, this hero is not working for me. Like, yeah, naturally some heroes are gonna be bullshit in lower ranks. Like, anyways, but that's not talking about esports. That's talking about just like in general, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, esports is in an interesting place right now. I'm not trying to turn this into like an esports podcast, but like there was a interesting article that came out from John Needham. I think he's basically the president of esports at Riot. And one of the key things that was written in there that was super insightful was like they identified that demographically, a lot of the viewership that they get for the Riot esports products come from players who have a high interest in wanting to watch esports to try and improve their own gameplay. Like one of the core reasons why a viewer for League of Legends might watch a League of Legends product, esports wise, is because they want to climb ranks. It's like a primary motivator. And when I look at the Overwatch audience, I'm like, man, ranked is like not even the primary population. Like quick play was way bigger than ranked, right? Am I crazy? I don't
It's not even
know.
close. It's like 70% quick play to 30% on PC.
I just feel like I just feel like Overwatch is so casual. Like I mean, I look at that statement for League of Legends, like man, I wish we had that for Overwatch. I wish more people were interested in ranked, interested in competitive, and would watch a competitive product to try and improve their own gameplay. But I just feel like that doesn't describe the Overwatch audience at all.
And the Overwatch audience, that's good and bad. Like, obviously some people are playing Overwatch because they didn't like the Dota environment. They didn't like the League environment of that hyper competitive. Like Overwatch is just naturally more targeted towards more casual and kind of everyone getting their friends together and playing, and that's great.
Well,
and obviously, okay, get 2, get 3 stack. But clearly, if you're in GM, you're competitive. You don't, you're not doing that for that reason. But anyways, we won't get into that one. But shit, I lost my train of thought now.
Sorry, buddy.
Me.
No, I mean,
that Overwatch players are casual
it's a relevant point to make, because I think this is a wider. I mean, we kind of vaguely touched on the last podcast as well when we were talking about like Google Trends, and Sam, I know you're a big fan of Google Trends, and just like Overwatch kind of it's back to being below like Apex and Valorant. I think roughly is keeping in touch with Apex when like there's a new season or something, but beyond that, it's definitely being outperformed by Valorant and Apex, even when we're ostensibly in a reboot of the game. We're only 6 months in, but part of that is part of this, I think, is that its audience is different to those games. Like the audience of those games are looking for a more hardcore experience. They're looking for, and they're being at the front of the door. I think they're being sold a more hardcore experience. I actually think this is what I have no basis for this other than intuition, which is that I think the devs are kind of catching on to this. And this is a lengthy side topic, but hey, fuck it. Well, this will be our last topic. I think the devs are catching on that the like Overwatch 2 FPS esports project has failed, essentially. I think they've kind of caught on that like what they sold Overwatch 2 as
failed is
like,
a strong word.
Yeah, I'm clickbaiting it. I'm clickbaiting
not...
it. I'm clickbaiting it. Give me a snappy title here, AVRL. Which is that I think the thing that they sold it as, which is like, hey guys, we're going back to our roots. We're an FPS game. We're gonna. I remember Aaron saying all these things in interviews. Like, we're going back to cater to the hardcore community. Want to make sure we give them like a game that really feels like a shooter. You really have power to turn the game and blah 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 blah. It was like a call to arms to say, hey, hardcore community, return to us. Like we're gonna make this the game you want it to be. And then I think they've tried that and they've like looked in. They're like, you know what? Those guys aren't happy with us anyways. Like they're still not happy with us. They don't like the changes we make. Like that, we're trying to find this balance, but it's not working for them. So it's not going to work for them ever. Like we're never going to get it to work for them. Let's just veer back and be the more like, hey, this is a fun game. It's kind of a MOBA. It's kind of a shooter. It's kind of in between. You can play whatever hero you want with it. With whatever skill sets that you have. And then when the PvE comes up, I think it'll kind of round the picture off where we're like, okay, now we're really there. This is really a game which is like, hey, come here, play, have fun, play with the story. But don't worry about it like a hardcore, read the 14-hour patch notes for this to understand what the hell is even going on, right? It's a lot more like user-friendly. And I do think my intuition is the devs have caught on to this, and that's where we're going.
That was the point, or not the point. What was it? When I said devs were kind of changing what they were going back on, was like early on, they're like, oh, we're kind of simplistic. Like the fact that we don't have numbers in the game, that you could go to a hero gallery and be like, let me look at Sombra's numbers. Oh, she has hack, disable an enemy. And it's like, where's the numbers? Give me like
for how long?
Cast time, duration, like whatever, range, everything. cancels by damage. Like they could do that. They clearly, I mean, the numbers are coded, right? Like they have them clearly. We have the wiki outside of the game that gives us that information. Why is that not in the game somewhere? Doesn't have to be in the front. Doesn't have to like just, and it doesn't matter. Obviously, like, maybe we would know the Brigida changes if they're in the game where we can read in between. Side note, I'm gonna keep taking things from Dota because competitive. Imagine you could go right now, you launch Overwatch, and you're like, I want to watch somebody play whoever. I want to watch somebody play Sombra. And it's like, let me search Sombra. And it just pulls up like, you can just infinite list of people playing Sombra. And it's like, oh, highest rated game with Sombra in the game currently being played. And you go and you click on that game. And it's just like a 5-minute behind live thing. Or like, or they could honestly make it like a minute behind, whatever. Like Dota is like, oh, wards, you could stream snipe, whatever. But like Overwatch, you're not really giving info like, oh, they're hiding back, like that's not gonna matter a minute later. Anyways, but Dota has that where you can. Sorry, go ahead.
Finish your point. Sorry.
I was just saying Dota has that where like you can go and look at. I want to watch somebody play this hero. You click on the game, it takes you into the game. You can watch their perspective. You can see everything they're doing, and it's like 2 minutes behind the live. Like they're playing it right now. I think if you could do that in the game while you're in queue or not in queue, or you just go look, you just go watch somebody for 10 minutes or whatever, to like see a perspective or get a replay or whatever, see the leaderboard where you can go look at the leaderboard, look at their match history, look at their game, pull up that replay, check it, like
that would be
all of
so
that
fun to spectate live matches. Just
yeah,
you at that point too, like just
exactly.
I would love to go down and just like live commentate like actual live bronze games that are happening right now.
All right, you're a little toxic there, a little no.
It's good content. It's good content. Listen, if Flats.
Oh, I know the YouTube. I know the YouTube.
Bronzes make YouTube.
Fun. I mean, again, this is just a random.
Here's Flats,
by
the Sam, by the way. There's another thing that you should know, by the way. I don't know if you followed with the Dota patch. Boger's a big proponent of this. With the recent Dota patch, they made it so that at the highest level, they don't actually matchmake them anymore. They put them in a lobby and they let them pick who's going to be on each other's team. So like at the highest level, because
they did that in Dota? I didn't even see that.
Because they were like, okay, well, you guys at the highest level, you guys know each other so much, and like no matter what we do with the matchmaking, something's like effed. So like here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna let you guys pick your own, like pick each other.
You
pick the squad.
You mean that they're giving each other the ability to control their experience? Huh? I thought
like
that
hero bans.
I feel like high level players.
Everyone's got their agenda.
I feel like
I shouldn't have started the pot.
I think if they get to choose what they get to do with their experience, unlike the rest of the community, just because they're good, that they shouldn't be allowed to do that because that's gonna ruin the game. Yeah, I agree.
Only from gold onwards, bronze and silver can still just do whatever, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Well, we can actually spectate their games.
I want to rewind real quick on something because I was just thought of we talked a little bit about Valve. You guys talked about Dota, but I actually want to bring up Counter-Strike because they are going through their own little number 2 sequel. I don't know if you guys are caught up on the news on that. Counter-Strike 2, fellas. And what's really sending me about that entire situation right now is the response that the Counter-Strike audience and demographic have for that compared to the Overwatch audience and this general response. First of all, I'm not seeing Dunkey making no hate video about CS2. And if you look at what CS2 is, they're just upgrading to the Source 2 engine, which Dota 2 has been on for years now, by the way. They've just upgrading the engine. Fair enough, they are upgrading the engine. We'll give them that. But fundamentally, the game doesn't look too different. Like you would not be remiss to call that a literal like marketing update, right? Yeah. But let's think about what Valve are really doing. They're making CS2 as a way to reinvigorate the game and to get players back because they know that Valorant stole a lot of their player base, and they want CS to be. It is pretty relevant, but they want it to be more relevant, especially amongst the younger audience who's leaning towards Valorant. So, for me, on the outside, I don't really see a difference between the CSGO to CSGO 2 situation than the Overwatch to Overwatch 2 situation. Are they both not just updates, right?
I'm gonna get in their chats and just be like, "What's the difference?"
Here's the thing. This is the part that sends me up the fucking wall. Is the difference in player base and the difference in demographics means that for Overwatch going to Overwatch 2, everyone clowned on Overwatch 2. Update, Overwatch 1.5, Dunkey gets a fucking 10 million viewer video, fucking shitting on it. Cool. No one cares that CS:GO is doing the exact same thing. In fact, the CS audience is like, oh, this is amazing. I love this. I can't wait. This is the best thing ever. Thank you so much, Valve. I love this so much. It's like the complete opposite. I'm like, whoa, what is going on? I'm not living in the fucking upside down. Like, everyone hated it for Overwatch, but now everyone loves it for CS. Like, to make it make sense. Like, it blows my mind.
I will say,
Go ahead,
Sam. You go. Okay. I will say that in to devil's advocate your point, and I agree that. I mean, partly it's the ineffable factor of people just hate Activision Blizzard. Like the community just likes shitting on them. Like they just it's fun. It's a fun activity, and you can't even say you sympathize, because as much as I sympathize with the team for devs of Overwatch, you can't say that Activision hasn't deserved the flack it's gotten. So like on that hand, there's that.
Yeah.
I will say that when Overwatch 2 was announced, it was announced with quite a fanfare and aplomb of like, we are going to, Jeff Kaplan's words, we're going to reinvent the sequel. We're going to drop a PvE campaign that's like nothing you've ever played. And then 3 years later, it does drop in early access and it's the same game, right? So like, I will say that there is a, like, people were hyped about Overwatch 2.
Out there. Yeah.
People were hyped about Overwatch 2. It's just that years went by and it never delivered. And we still haven't, actually. We still haven't gotten the Overwatch 2 part. We're still waiting. So like, I guess their expectations are more. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
The single player obviously is, or I say single player, but the campaign is going to bring in like this whole new audience of people that don't like to play online multiplayer games, that they just want to like play with their friends against bots in like a good, not like, oh, it's bots, but like a, you know, they like the story mode. They like, so, and then you got, you know, maybe speedrunners, maybe that happens where there's this whole like, oh, we can do this, whatever, you know, speedrunning. So yeah, I think the potential to bring in, I know StarCraft kind of had that as well, I think, where they added up, what's it called? I don't even know what it's called. It might just be called co-op.
The co-op campaigns, yeah, they're just called co-op.
I've never played it, but it's like super dominant.
Those are actually fun.
It's really popular, actually. Yeah, so essentially it's just little missions that they create every week, and then you can, for anyone who doesn't know, they're just like, you just play with like a random other person if you want to, or with your friend, and you're both just playing in the thing. So it's like totally not what StarCraft, even though it's such a hardcore crazy game, it's totally not what the game is about, and yet it's very popular.
And so the same thing could happen with Overwatch, you know, with, and I don't know, the biggest thing is going to be, of course, the replayability and whatnot, but we don't have to discuss all that. We all know it. We're kind of just patiently waiting to see what happens. But sorry, go ahead.
Doesn't that completely speak to the difference I'm pointing out in demographics for the player base?
Sure.
Like, or rather the interest for the player base, where the Overwatch player base is far more interested in the PvE content, single player co-op kind of stuff, like that's what they're waiting on. Whereas the Counter-Strike player base is so competitive that if Valve came out and said, by the way, we're working on a PvE, their player base would probably say, why the fuck are you doing that? It's a waste of time. I don't want that.
Well, and to that point, I'm seeing a lot of discussion, even as someone who's not invested, I'm seeing a lot of discussion about like the servers and the tick rates, and like this is like really important to the.
Yeah, those are things they care about.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for a competitive experience, and that's why like they're not shitting on the idea of CS:GO 2, even though honestly speaking, Dunkey should make a video called CS:GO 1.5, because that's actually what it is, but no one's hating on it.
I'll make a parody video.
I would love that. Thank you, Fitzy. That'd make my day.
Let me write that down.
I'm not hating on CS. What I'm saying is like I wish our audience was more mature about it, the way that Valve's CS's audience is about their quote unquote sequel, which is really just an update like our game was. Because what they care about is completely different. Like their audience is loving the fact that they're getting a 2.0 update, because CS:GO was a fairly abandoned game as well. Like it depends on what you define abandoned as, but that game got fucking very little updates. Very little updates. You want to talk about content? Like people complain that we didn't get new heroes for however many years. Like that game didn't get anything new for however many years. It's like it's just nothing.
Well, and it wasn't just the Overwatch audience that was necessarily shitting on Overwatch. Like it was definitely people that didn't play the game that were coming in. Like,
the entire gaming industry.
Which, because it is different from the CS:GO, the hyper competitive thing, that they're coming in and like it's not that. It's not the competitive. I don't care. Why are we making this not competitive? So that's why I think that we're seeing the big difference between like the casuals don't care to be like, that's too competitive. There's not casual, because there never was a casual part of that really. And whereas the competitive were like, we could see this as the potential for a competitive game, but it's more casual than competitive, and it's not meeting our competitive standards. So they're like,
Oh, by the way, Counter-Strike, CS:GO, they're ranked. You think ranked has had problems on Overwatch? Counter-Strike's history of ranked was so atrocious that any high-level player that actually cared about ranked didn't play ranked. They played Face It. They played on third-party, servers and third-party platforms to have their quote-unquote ranked experience. It was basically pugs. That they paid for that. It was a paid premium experience, by the way. They paid for that because ranked in CS:GO was so atrocious. So beyond all that, I mean, I just feel like you never saw the level of hatred towards Valve, or maybe it is just literally the lawsuit that really shot Blizzard in the foot. Maybe it is that. Not that I'm trying to turn this into another lawsuit discussion, because I'm sure we've had plenty of those in the past. But it's just a totally different attitude. It's a completely different attitude, and I think you bring up a great point. It's like wasn't just the Overwatch audience; it was the entire gaming industry completely shat on the idea of Overwatch 2, and now other games are doing it, and it's just crickets. It's literally crickets. It's bewildering.
well, same thing for Battle Pass, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, any other game's allowed to have a Battle Pass, not Overwatch though.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's just if you just look at the timing of when it all hit, like, they announced Overwatch 2. Actually, if you remember around the time that was the Blitzchung controversy, I'm just thinking back now. It's at the time when Hearthstone. For those who forgot, essentially Hearthstone is a Blizzard's card game, and they had this pro player. I think he won, or he was certainly on their broadcast for their pro esports. He won something, and they asked him to say something, and he basically said "Free Hong Kong, struggle of our time," or something to those words.
And then he put on a a gas mask.
Yeah. So this was around the time that there was like controversy and unrest in that area. And
then they banned him and took all his
money. And then they banned him. They took his money. They prize money away.
No,
and
they did. They did.
Yeah, they literally banned him from playing esports.
Right?
They eventually caved,
later
brought
after
him back.
the community was like, "What the hell's going on?
Yeah,
This guy's saying something." And the rule book did say like, "Nope, nothing political, whatever." Like, they had the right to do that, but.
Yeah, so they banned him. They took his winnings. They took the fact that he won. They like stripped him of everything. It was like a huge. I don't want to dwell too much. Essentially, it was a huge controversy, and that's what. Overwatch 2 was released. Before. Yeah, Overwatch 2 was released, and people speculated it was as a reason to deflect from that criticism at that time, only for us to then, several months later, have the bigger bad villain of the Activision lawsuit and the multiple lawsuits.
That was a year and a half later, because that was when that happened in BlizzCon 2019, and then Metro freaking leaked over. Lord knows how he found that one out. Then. That was BlizzCon 20, because Fitzy, it was you, me, and like PvP walking around all BlizzCon in 2019, and I remember walking out with PvP and Frito and Nate, and like there were a bunch of protesters like at that BlizzCon in 2019. It was an insane scene, and then like Jeff announced the wording. I think is what really did it though. I think the wording, and no one had ever done it. It was that we're gonna redefine a sequel. And I think that's just such a big...
Yeah, but even I think AVRL is right that I do think that the sentiment around the company just got so soured. Again, I just think it became popular for everyone to shit on Activision Blizzard. It's not really even Blizzard's fault, because it's their tie-in with Call of Duty, right? Call of Duty is already a franchise that had like not a lot of affection amongst the community, but Blizzard kind of got pulled in with all of that when the Hearthstone thing happened, and then the lawsuits. Everyone just started associating every Blizzard product with like this one nefarious ideology.
Listen...
Which other companies get away with, by the way? No one ever brings it up.
Riot has had his own.
Brings it up.
Riot has had its own things, and people do not. It's just the wave. I just really do believe it's like that there was like an era. It's like it's hard to point to the one thing, but if you think about it, at the same time, World of Warcraft also going through its own shithousery, right? Where like popular content creators like Asmongold are like raging, and Final Fantasy is overtaking them, and everybody's mad. So it's like it really was like lightning in a bottle if we were to analyze it, where it's like all these events just. Unfortunately for Blizzard,
here's the difference. You know what the difference
at the same time, yeah.
What?
Riot made an anime and we didn't.
Real.
I'm not joking. I'm not fucking joking about that. That's actually the difference.
No,
it's not just that. It's not just that. It's also that they made successful games at the time. That's the difference.
Really good, Fitzy. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. I haven't.
It's really good. It's really good. But they also their communities were happy though. That's the other part of AVRL, right? Like the Overwatch community was unhappy. And the World of Warcraft community was unhappy. Like the League of Legends community.
The communities are happier, we'll say that.
Yes, they're relatively much more happy. Like if you look at it, at least from the outside looking in, they were happier with what was going on with their games. And Valorant was relatively happier than what Overwatch's community was. So like it just hit that moment where everyone was like super pissed off anyways, and they were able to like point at the big bad guy and say it's because Activision Blizzard are evil motherfuckers. And that's like now the narrative.
Here's the thing. I'm not worried because I bet you anything that EA makes some kind of pay-to-win Star Wars game again, and then they'll become the villain. So it's good to do. They're due.
Well, they already had the pretty bad release.
Have enough years passed that we can try this again? Is that what they're doing?
yeah.
Well, they already had a bad release to this new
be
Jedi
fair,
game.
Listen, we've had our down moments, but they did have the most downvoted Reddit comment of all time. I'm not sure if it's been passed. Of developers saying, we want our players to feel rewarded and if they've achieved something when you're literally just buying like the pay to win gun. So
Yeah,
at
the
least
pay
we
to
never
win
did
hero.
that. You know.
Okay. On that note, though, we should wrap it up soon. So is any other topics you want, or any other mentions you want to make on that topic before we head to concluding thoughts? No, all right.
Yeah,
well,
sure. We need an anime. We need
do
an
need
anime
it.
bad.
Ironically, this is how every one of the podcast ends now, where everyone's like, please, we need an Overwatch anime. That's the only thing that can save us.
I'm not even joking. It's literally proven.
Yeah,
You
no,
can go through whatever
Cyberpunk as well.
controversy.
Cyberpunk as well. Look at Cyberpunk's rejuvenation with their anime.
Yes. Anything can happen. You can have the worst launch. Your game can be total trash. You can have a disgusting lawsuit, which Riot did, by the way, have. And by the way, here's a fun fact that most people, for some reason, just continue to ignore. Not a single executive, not one C-suite member, no executives, no upper management members of staff from Riot got fired over that. Zero. By the way, they still work there. They still fucking work there, including people who were directly accused. Still work there today. Not a single fucking one of them gone. But people ignore that because all you got to do is wait. You got to just hey, don't look at the controversy. Here, shiny anime. Look at this shiny anime. Ignore controversy. Look at shiny anime, and that works. It literally works.
It does. Clearly, case in point. Again, if you keep people happy with the shiny toys, and
maybe
it's more when
planned to launch with the PvE. You know, they're waiting to do the story, and then they'll make the movie about it. Write that down.
Yeah, they're like shit. No, I'm sure they've already planned it. So let's on that note, let's think about what the upcoming future. Jared Neus has kind of already spoken about. There's a roadmap that's going to come in the middle of next month, middle of May. So that's when the Overwatch developers are preparing to tell us more about their quote-unquote plans for presumably PvE and its release. So what do we kind of envision for the next couple months of Overwatch? Like, what are we hoping to see? What are we hoping to hear announced? I'll start with Samito.
So Jared's throwing me a curveball here because I want to say that in the ideal world by BlizzCon, we'll have some form of PvE out. I think that 1 year past the release, October 4th, correct? October 4th of 2023, about a year later, we should at least have heard about what the PvE plans are. Other than that, I'd like to see. Right, what was the question? Like, what do I expect to see, or what do I want to see?
Both. What do you expect and want?
I want to hear some more about ranked changes and overhauls to the system, a tournament mode, stuff like that. I'm not expecting to hear anything about it though, because I just don't think that. I think that you were right when you said that Blizzard is just kind of giving up on that target audience. I think they've. It sucks, but the reality of ranked is I'm making a video on it this week. I think this ranked system is objectively worse. It has some benefits to it. I think there are some parts of it that are better, but not being able to see, I miss seeing my border. I miss seeing my rank. I miss seeing like numbers, and I would love to see ranked get the improvements I think it deserves, because that drives again. You talked about AVRL earlier about the drive of your average consumer to watch esports. It's because they want to improve themselves, and I think when Overwatch was regarded to be the top of the industry, I'm not saying it's horrible now, but back when it was the game of the year, right? Still the only shooter to do it, by the way. Still the only shooter game to ever to do that in I think the entire previous decade, right? So incredible achievement on their part. I just love to see stuff like that happen and them try to reaffirm their stance with the competitive audience. I think the casual audience will be in a good spot when PvE comes out. But I want and expect to hear something about PvE come BlizzCon this fall. If it's, I think it's happening either way around that time frame. So that's all it really is for me. I'd love to. Listen, I'm a big Borderlands fan. The amount of hours I have on Borderlands is awesome. And no one here has played Wonderlands yet, which was like their kind of spin-off side project.
I
It's like
played.
a mix between. Dude, it was awesome. The spells were freaking sweet. So if you guys want a day away from like about a weekend away from Overwatch, give Wonderlands a try. You will have a freaking fantastic time. Just stuff like that. I want to see more about it. I hope to see more, and it'll be sweet when it comes out. So that's it for me.
We hope so. Fitzy, you go next. We'll let Avril round us off.
Well, I expect to see something about Sombra changes. You know, do I want it? You know, we'll see. But going to the ranked point of Samito's real quick. They had, you know, wanting to see your rank and stuff. I definitely going into a game knowing what rank it is helps for sure, because there's a big difference between this is a GM1 game and this is a GM4 game of
And
like
they did do that. I forgot to say that. They did
and
do
so
that.
maybe they are like, we'll just slowly kind of bring them back. I'm still waiting for the, like, if you're in top 500, it shows somebody who's top 500. Like, just give us that, you know, show us our rank, little thing in the bottom left, so we can have it on our YouTube video. And you're like, look, I'm top 500. I'm ranked 27, whatever. Like, that definitely gives you the credibility to be like, yes, I'm doing well, but this is also a high ranked game. So, anyways, what do I expect? I think at anniversary, the May 26th? Hopefully something, but considering that Overwatch 2, you know, got released in October 4th, yeah. But I think May 26th, since October 4th was like a early access, you know, maybe the May 26th they will, I don't know, give us something, but maybe give us like, hey, here's what's going on. But we did get a roadmap for like, you know, till the end of this season. So and then we also have, you know, we don't have Rainbow Month, we have Pride Month, so that's cool. That you know, there's little stuff here and there.
Was it Rainbow Month before?
No, it's just the
icon
badge was called
was.
Rainbow instead of Pride. So yeah, so which you know, it's one of those things. It's like, and honestly, personally for me, that's not something that I'm like hyper focused on, but definitely is important for a lot of people. So but they're, you know, they're at least something, you know, there's a little something. And I know a lot of people in the back end, or, you know, that we talk to are excited about that as well. You know, that anyways, community managers and whatnot. But anyways, what do I look for? What do I want? Yeah, I'm just excited to have new heroes. I'm gonna be honest. Like, the fact that we're actually getting content. I know I'm still on like the Overwatch 2 high of like, listen, every what 20 weeks we're getting a new hero. Like, that is, for me, is what I care about. Is like, you know, I've been grinding Lifeweaver. That's what I would do, is like, I'm playing Sombra, doing some stuff, and it's like, okay, oh, new hero, all right. And you're playing that for a couple weeks, and like, there was that nice pattern of like going between, I'm grinding the ranked, you know, and then I'm playing the new thing, and then going back and forth, and then PvE will happen and whatever. So I'm just glad to have that to kind of rejuvenate. And I think they're doing really good on patches, as much as, you know, like, they're changing stuff. They're willing to change stuff. Excited about that. And they're okay with kind of throwing something in and taking it back. And they're also not afraid to piss off the Mercy main. So respect to them for that.
Finally.
Finally. But yeah, so I don't know if that really answered your question, but there you go.
No, it's a good response.
That's my concluding thoughts.
Avril?
When you said Mercy, I wanted to hear the annoying one more time. I was just like, that'd be perfect. Someone had to say it.
1 sec, I just BRB. Carry on.
I'm not gonna mention PvE. I'm not gonna mention any heroes or any patches or things like that. I'm not gonna talk about ranked either. I'm gonna talk about something different in terms of what I want. I don't know. It's just like a wish list, or what I don't know. What I want to see on a roadmap is this needs to. I think this would be really cool. Valorant just announced their tournament mode and all that kind of stuff, and everyone's really excited about that from the Valorant circles. It seems like, you know, most of the players are into that. I want to see something similar to that come online for Overwatch in the future on a roadmap. That'd be really cool. So, yeah, I think there's a market for it.
Without hearing, I'm guessing this is Valorant's Team Q. Is that what you just talked
it's a
about?
tournament mode. I don't think it's is it a team queue?
Yeah,
I'm pretty
tournament,
sure it's
tournament mode. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it's
like
a
a-
Valorant
yeah.
tournament mode.
Yeah.
I just want to
So
say you guys have done a great job representing Frito today. You guys have hit all of his bingos, so congratulations.
What were his bangos? Hero bands?
I was the original Frito replacement for a little bit, for like a few episodes. So I'm glad I'm in that.
Now you have cemented your own spot in the
Yeah,
legend.
not
of
at
the
all,
Group
not
Up
at all.
Avengers.
Definitely, for sure. Not
I
a
just had
replacement.
one more side point.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, this is sorry. I custom games. If they can make it to where people can build a map, I think that would be huge.
So map editor.
Well, another
yeah.
Talantis?
No, just like imagine you could just like make a maze or like make a something where you're like, I don't know. Anyways, sorry. I didn't want to add this discussion, whatever. Just that was a thought I had, but
Yeah.
I think that
map
would
editor,
be-
basically. Map editor.
yeah.
That would be
Sorry.
that sounds like a lot of work though from
It
the
is.
dev side. Like
It is.
creating a map editor is
But
like insane.
the longevity of the game, and maybe this is me coming from StarCraft. Like before I went competitive, I played all these user map settings where they were
Yeah.
making the custom games, and
Is,
like
is
that-
it Workshop kind of doing that? the
yeah,
workshop?
but
No, so
imagine
basically
but
you don't get
have
to
use
manipulate
the
the
maps that
assets.
exist. You can't just like build a building.
The map editor of like a StarCraft and Warcraft, you get all the assets that are in the game, so you can literally put them in whatever like fashion you want and design. Like
Yeah.
if there's like a lamp, you could put that lamp anywhere. If there's like a tile,
Then
for
you
a
have to
ground,
create a map editor.
Yeah, then
which is
which is
like
a
the
lot of
whole
work.
thing.
A lot
Do
of
it!
work. Obviously,
They
like
can
we've
make their
discussed
own
this before.
story missions.
We've discussed this before, but like I'm guessing it's
Sorry.
something they want. It's just obviously again in the live service model, it's like if you're making a map editor, you're not making another hero. So they'd rather have another hero than have a map editor.
And it would serve like so. I feel like
Certainly
so
like it.
few players would engage with that in terms of. I'm sure they would play it, but so few people would make stuff
Ooh.
from it. that-
Oh no!
mean, I'm sure the
Roblox and
workshop people
Fortnite and those guys would beg to differ. but-
Okay, maybe I'll cop the L then. I'm sure. I guess.
I would not be
Well,
able to
well,
do the stuff that
you're
people
not
make, but
wrong.
those.
You're not wrong, but like it's not about where it's at right now. It's about what people would want to do with it. And I think this might be a hot take, and then AVRL, you can continue. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think Overwatch's game engine is still the best looking game engine of any game that has come out since Overwatch launched. I have not seen one better than that, and the one before that I thought was beautiful was Witcher 3. Gorgeous. Continue.
What was the last game, reasonably popular game that had a? You're about to say Roblox and Fortnite, I guess. But what I'm trying to get to was like most games don't release with that, not because they don't want to, just because it's way too much fucking work. Like they had a snap map editor for Doom 2016, then they didn't bring it back for Doom Eternal because it's just too much work. Like for the more modern your game is, the harder it is to implement. Like yeah, for like StarCraft Brutal, or even StarCraft 2 back in the day, you could do it. If there's ever going to be a StarCraft 3, I don't think there's going to be a map editor for StarCraft 3. It'd just be too much work. It'd be too hard to implement.
No.
I think it's
would.
different. It's to be fair, it's different with like different
Top down,
things.
yeah, it's a lot
It's much
easier to
different
build.
when
Maybe
you're just-
StarCraft is different. Maybe those are bad examples.
No, I just like
but-
it's just like the top-down genre, like anything like that, where it's like it's easier to just like have the assets there. Whereas like in an FPS game, it's like the blocks and stuff are so much different. So I mean,
Yeah.
I agree with your point.
Sorry,
Brad.
I
Go
didn't
ahead.
want to open this.
It's fine.
That's
But,
something
like,
I've thought
also-
about that
also-
like
because people bring
especially
up
because
not
of
you guys.
the casual audience.
Yeah, and not you guys, but like people in the chat are bringing up the Valve games. Like that's because they have Source SDK. There's like a whole platform called Source SDK that allows you to do all of this like modding stuff and like creating all the maps and whatnot. We just don't have something like that for Overwatch, and it would have to be created. And that's just a shit ton of dev work, like an insane amount of dev work.
Yeah,
Maybe it's Microsoft acquisition. No.
it's just not a realistic expectation right now. I mean, again, you can look. I think there's like these are great examples of like stuff you can point at and say we should have had this. And there's like multiple of these. Again, you already mentioned the tournament mode. Like you can look at that and say, look, you know, in 2-3 years, Valorant got a tournament mode. In less time than Overwatch, Fortnite got a creative mode, right? So you can point at them and in the bigger picture say we didn't get them, but right, like saying like, okay, right now if they put in a map editor to be great, is like that's unfortunately like whatever plan they had because it isn't coming out anytime soon without like diverting a
Also-
crap ton of resources.
To be fair, Valorant still don't have replays, and we do. So there's give and
That's
take
true.
there. There's some things that we have. There's some things they don't have. So
True.
they don't
100%,
have workshop. We have workshop. Like there's give and take there.
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts on that end, AVRL?
Yeah, I
just
just
anything.
think like in terms of viable multiplayer features that would be engaging for the community, that wouldn't be too insane of dev work. Obviously, tournament mode is dev work on the engineering side for like how that's all going to use some UI stuff as well in terms of like how it's going to look and how that's all going to interact. And I don't think there's the Valorant stuff out yet. I think it's maybe not out, but I'd really like to see like how it all looks together. The trailer was insane. I thought the trailer they did for the tournament mode looked so good and so engaging, and like that's exactly what I want. I want something like that for Overwatch. That's what I hope.
Yeah, I do think that this is an area that Riot are better. Like their presentation of their news is also good. It's not just the news; it's how you present
Sure.
it, right? So like the way they drop heroes, the way that like I compare the way Valorant dropped their shit ass hero to Overwatch dropping their awesome and much more like just cool hero, and yet they're received so much better because the presentation of how it's done is like better than what Overwatch did. Where I feel like I've never seen anyone outside of the Overwatch community talk about Lifeweaver. Like not at all, but I saw lots of people talking about.
I will say Rams though, and Rams was
Yes,
talked
Ramatra's
about a
was really
lot,
cool.
and
Ramatra's really cool.
Kiriko's was dope too.
Kiriko's was
sweet.
dope, but she had a short, so that's a little bit
Where
different.
is the Sojourn short? Where is
Yes,
that?
that's apparently still coming. Apparently, there was
Oh, wait,
news
really?
that it's there's news that
Yeah,
it
there
is
is one coming.
An
but
animated
yeah,
short or
They
Yes,
showed us
yes.
that back in like
Cinematic.
July. I feel
Cinematic.
like.
yeah. There's like a
wow.
like the way the Kiriko had one. So yeah, I mean, I do think these are other areas that are worth pointing out. I think from my end, yeah, I look forward to what news they have. I don't. I always I feel like I always trick myself into trying too hard on ranked or something. But at the end of the day, I always do gotta remember that it's not really the priority. Like to your guys' point, like I'm hovering outside of top 500, but I don't know where. I don't know how far I am. It's just like every placement, I'm just like you're better than 87% of GMs. How many of those are in top 500? I don't know.
Favorite one
Like,
was?
what is the
my
number
favorite
I'm
part of
looking
that
for?
was?
Yeah, go ahead.
When that came out, we were in Discord and Hawk was messaging me and he was like, it was a screenshot and he goes, it was GM1. You are better than 100% of players in this rank. And he's like, could someone tell me what this means? And he's just
Yeah,
like,
legit.
and the best part, he was on his Moira arc too. He's like a 70% win rate on Moira, just like one trick in Moira, just because.
Yeah, so
Good
like
for him,
these
man.
frustrations exist, but then I also remember that like it's not really about that. So I look forward, just like more news, more cool stuff. I hope we can kind of. I will say I'm very disappointed with how Lifeweaver was received in every way. Like I feel like the hero's play was received poorly by the community, and I feel like the release of the hero being this like I just think he's really cool. I like cool looking dude. He's got like a cool backstory. First openly pansexual hero. Like these are great things that.
Is it because no cinematic? Is that part of it?
There was. Did
yeah.
he even have a like a not? The,
He had an origin
are those
story. Yeah, he
cons-
had a little origin story, which
See
released
that.
with him with the deer and the tree and all that. Which like it was cool. I don't know the answer. I'm not sitting here and pretending to be expert who's like, if Overwatch just did this, the heroes would be received really well. But like I can't help feeling, and this was part of my lost discussion with Frida, where I was like, if Riot drop Lifeweaver as a hero, I guarantee you he breaks the internet. Like I guarantee you every person in the gaming industry is talking about Lifeweaver, but we just weren't. And I don't know why that reason is. It might just be part of what AVRL said, where everyone just loves to shit on Overwatch and will praise to the hilt something another company does. But there's not a doubt in my mind that if Lifeweaver had been dropped by Riot, he would have been received like twice as well. And I'm just kind of, I don't really have like a concrete thing of it. I'm just like, I wish that was different. And I hope that.
How was it themed? How was it themed when it came out? Because Kiriko, like the ones that Overwatch have done insanely well, have been very dark thematic stories. And I feel like Lifeweaver is not like a very dark personality, right? Like Ramatra's, dude, that was crazy when he was like talking about like, like the pain of the Omnics and stuff. Kiriko's was a very like trap, rappy, trendy theme. And the one that we haven't talked about that I think is the coolest one they ever done, Sigma's, was nuts. Like the dark theme around Sigma is like kind of losing his mind. That was crazy cool, right? And even Sombra's Fitzy when she first came out, I remember the hype around that, like infiltration, like they're a part of Talon. Like this might be a crazy thing to say, but I feel like the super dark thematic ones that have like suspense to them just do really well. And like Lifeweaver, it's not a shot at the
mystery,
character at
yeah.
all. The mystery, yeah. Like, you know, he just seems like a positive, you know, happy-go-lucky dude. You know, he's just hanging out.
They all have to be flawed.
They all
Well,
must
he
be
got
dark
rejected
and deeply
because he wasn't
traumatized.
conforming to, you know, society of perfection like Samito. That was
I think
his
it's-
whole spiel.
Yeah, I didn't see it, so maybe I'm an idiot here. But
I think it's cinematics. Legitimately,
Yeah.
I think most of the best releases we've had were tied to a really good cinematic.
Yeah, that's fair. Although again, Ramatra
Cinema-
does defy that. Where I do think he was received. I still don't think
yeah, okay.
received as well.
Fair enough.
Not as well,
no,
but
But Sigma didn't have a cinematic either. Like his just origin story
he's
was
so
so
edgy.
dark, and like it was like the
So-
voices and like the piano, dude, master class.
I figured out. If you're edgy enough as a hero, you don't need a cinematic. But otherwise, you do.
you need to
Yeah, yeah.
And if you have both,
Yeah, GG, it's
break
over.
the internet, break the internet.
Yeah, you hit
well,
the
let's-
jackpot right there.
Well,
yeah.
maybe the next support hero will be really edgy and have a cinematic. We can only
Yeah,
only
give
hope.
us.
Then we
Is
can
there an
test our
edgy
theory.
support hero? I don't think there is.
Moira, is that the closest?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, I don't know. I don't think Moira was edgy. I don't know. Maybe she was.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know.
we'll leave that for the community to decide. Chat, was Moira edgy or not? So
Yeah, you
on
guys
that
let us know in the
concluding
comments,
thought,
yeah.
thank you so much to AVRL, Samito, and Fitzy for joining me and giving me their time. I appreciate it as always, guys. And I hope that, I hope there'll be more fun stuff for us to talk about coming soon, and lots of fun stuff in OWL as well for us to dig
League's
into.
back.
And yeah, let's multi-stream
Let's
on all
go.
the bloody platforms that come out, and let's see how we do.
And add
Right.
contenders teams to the NA pool, because I'm just saying we've been cooking a little bit recently. That's all I'm saying. Let us cook.
I like it.
Scrimbucks.
I like it. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Peace out.